the great swordsman of Marvel. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 351, The Person with a System. They seemed to be looking for something here. Chen Feng found it strange. What were these people doing here? And where had Wang Zai and Lu Shi gone? This was something Yishen needed to figure out, and he definitely needed to find out what was going on. He stayed here for a while, not speaking to anyone, but he could clearly hear what the people were saying. This was what he needed to find out. When those people entered this place, they seemed a little angry. Then he heard someone say something. It was really strange. Where did that other person go? They couldn't find him and were really angry. But what use was that person to them? He only knew that everyone who entered this place was taken elsewhere. The person who brought them in was the one who had let Chen Feng and the others in. It seemed that Chen Feng and the others entered this place not because of the things Chen Feng had given them, but because someone had already said they would be taken here. Chen Feng moved aside again and heard the people continue speaking. Who can understand this? I don't know why those people let them in. Some of them were indeed ninjas, but if they weren't already ninjas, why would they come to this place? There was only one person who didn't seem too strong, but he was still much stronger than the ordinary people. But they never seemed to find any ordinary people, did they? Chen Feng was stunned when he heard this. No ordinary people had been brought here before. What was the purpose? He pondered this question, and looking at them again, he wondered how to find out. He hadn't mentioned this to anyone, it was something he wanted to understand on his own. Chen Feng didn't pay much attention to what they were saying next, as they were mainly trying to gain something from him. They wanted to find something good in his possession, but Chen Feng had already collected all of those items. He was now wondering what they were planning. He had kept those items because they were things they had earned by helping others or doing other things in return. Chen Feng didn't dare use anything from the system now, fearing that someone else with a system would discover it. Don't speak now. I have something to ask you. If I find out you dare tell anyone about this, don't blame me for being impolite. Anyway, my companions have already been captured by your people, and I don't care what else is going on here. Tell me everything that happened. Just as they were about to leave, Chen Feng suddenly brought someone inside. The person was stunned when he saw Chen Feng. Of course, they thought that even if Chen Feng and his group had some strength, they couldn't be too strong. Because of this, when Chen Feng spoke to him, he immediately wanted to attack. However, Chen Feng still held him as before. He was surprised to find that he couldn't possibly lose to Chen Feng. They must have concealed their strength when they entered this place. But he didn't dare to say anything more at this moment. If he really angered this person, he would definitely suffer some other consequences. Just tell me what's wrong right now, and I'll do my best to help you. Just tell me what you need help with. As for your companions, they're none of our business. We don't know where they were taken. That was someone else's doing. Chen Feng's expression grew increasingly serious as he listened. He wondered how long the person with the system had been here and how they could have so many people. Moreover, they didn't act like the others at all, each had their own business. Chen Feng was surprised. It seemed these people didn't know where the others had been taken. But as Chen Feng looked at them, he also found it strange. No matter what, with Wang Zai's strength, they shouldn't have been taken away so easily. Why were they being taken away like this? He was also trying to figure out what was going on and how to resolve the situation. But many things also left him feeling helpless. He didn't bring up the matter at this moment because he genuinely didn't want to discuss it anymore. He glanced at the man again. He didn't recognize the one he'd captured. He wasn't one of the people who had let them in, but they had certainly done similar things before. Chen Feng thought back to the things he'd just considered. Were they able to enter this place now truly because they'd given these people benefits, or because someone had discovered their strength and demanded they put them here? He pondered this while looking at the man. He hadn't said anything yet, but the man's fearful expression made Chen Feng understand the situation better. So, Chen Feng looked at him and gave him a cold smile. The man's expression immediately changed. He was genuinely afraid Chen Feng would just kill him right there. Please don't be angry right now. Just tell me what you want to say. There are many things I don't understand. Just tell me what you want to clarify. As long as you don't hurt me, I'll explain everything clearly." He looked at them and explained everything. Chen Feng didn't mention anything else, he was only thinking about how to resolve the situation. Seeing them like this, he kept thinking about it. "Then tell me one more thing. We were able to enter this place because we gave you benefits, or did you already have information that you were to bring us here? You need to explain this clearly." He looked at the man and said something threatening. The man was frightened but dared not say anything more. After all, Chen Feng's strength was much greater than theirs. If they really passed Chen Feng, they would definitely be in danger. Chapter 352 Strength. Someone had previously informed us that we should bring you people here, but in exchange for something from you. This was something they had discussed beforehand, and they only did it because they saw you as potential donors. As for the rest, Chen Feng understood without being told. They all felt that if they entered this place, they would inevitably be harmed by those people. Even if they kept those items, they wouldn't be of any use. It was better to let them get them, it would make them happier. Hearing this, Chen Feng just looked at these people, feeling somewhat helpless, but there was nothing else to say at this point. They had already done what they were doing, what was the point of being afraid now? However, he still wanted to know something else, so he looked at him and said, "Then let me tell you something else. What happened to the people you brought here? Do you know, or have you seen them again? If so, tell me where you saw them and what happened." The man dared not hide anything from Chen Feng now. He clearly understood Chen Feng's strength, and they had indeed done things that angered them. He was afraid they would be dealt with now, so he stepped back and looked at Chen Feng. Chen Feng didn't stop him. If he wanted to run away, he could still stop him. The man thought about it, they hadn't seen the people they brought here again, so he told Chen Feng directly. "I don't know much about the other things, because I haven't seen the people we brought here. They didn't seem to stay here, they just suddenly disappeared. But we all think they were taken away by those people to become stronger. We don't know anything else." He already knew everything without this person needing to tell him. He knew exactly where Lu Shi and the others had been taken, and what puzzled him most was how they had managed it, how Lu Shi and the others had been taken away by these people. He wanted to know these things, but this person probably wouldn't know in the future either. It was clear they weren't the ones who did it, each of them had their own matters to attend to. This matter obviously wasn't their doing at this time. It seemed there were other people involved who had taken these people to that place, and Chen Feng wouldn't mention the harm they had suffered. He just glanced at this person again, realizing there was nothing more to say. He was currently confused and needed to find Lu Shi and the others as soon as possible. He was about to leave when someone else walked by. The person was surprised to see Chen Feng. "You haven't been taken away by those people yet? But since you've run into me, don't blame me for being impolite. They said they had to take you away now. No matter what, you're not staying here." As they spoke, they glanced at Chen Feng with a hint of smugness. Chen Feng, hearing their words, was genuinely angry. He didn't want to say anything more to them. He wasn't going to let those they had hurt, or Lu Shi and the others they had abducted, get away with it. He was certain Lu Shi and the others had been captured, otherwise, they wouldn't have disappeared without a word. But since that was the case, he had to find a way to resolve the situation. He needed to figure out what they were planning. He looked at them again, then remained silent, pondering how to handle the situation. He just needed to explain the situation to them first. He needed to know where those people had been taken. He needed to find out where they had been taken before he could resolve the current situation. Okay, Zhao. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare say anything more at this point. He planned to go there first to investigate and then figure out why they had been captured. Chen Feng was now very anxious because Lu Shi and Wang Zai were missing, especially in this place. He had discovered that these people were using ordinary people to gain spiritual energy for cultivation. He never imagined that anyone would dare to do such a thing in a place like this. Moreover, since there were no cultivators here, it was impossible for anyone to notice what they were doing. This only made him angrier. He felt that those people's actions were inhuman, but he had no other choice. "I can let you go for now, but I don't want to be deceived in this matter. I think you know what kind of person I am. You already lied to me when I came in from that place. I won't hold it against you, but don't think I'm really letting you off the hook." He looked at the people he had captured. He had brought them here to find out some things, and the people could tell from his expression that he was genuinely angry. especially since they had been lied to him when they came in. It was quite possible that he was angry, but they didn't dare say anything more because they had indeed angered Chen Feng in this matter, and his child was now missing. They had initially thought he was just like any other ordinary person. They never imagined that someone of Chen Feng's strength would secretly infiltrate this place at this time. They didn't know Chen Feng's purpose, but they knew that this person was definitely not someone they could afford to offend. They looked at Yi Shen with a sense of fear. Chen Feng didn't intend to harm these people, but he needed to let them know what they had done and what those they had brought here would encounter. So he devised a plan to leave them here for now and observe them. Since you've also tricked many people into this place and profited from them, let's see if, when you're discovered here, they take you directly to where those people went, or if they ask you to release yourselves now. Let's test it out now. Chapter 353 Aggression. He glanced at them. Of course, Chen Feng had his reasons for doing this. He knew these people couldn't possibly encounter any other danger here. He simply wanted them to understand the harm their actions had caused others. He just wanted to see what they were thinking. That wasn't his concern. After all, it was their own doing. Chen Feng walked out in another direction. He had initially hidden outside the door, and sure enough, more people came over at that moment. He then looked at them again, pondering the matter. This is really strange. We just let these people out at this time, so why do they seem to be here again? Let's go inside and see what's going on. They only come looking for us when someone appears in here. Chen Feng was taken aback when he heard this. Then he immediately realized that ever since they entered this place, these people had been trying to deal with him. However, they hadn't seen Chen Feng before, so they must have guessed where he was and that he had secretly gone out. That's why Chen Feng and his group were the first ones they brought in. But now that things had come to this point, Chen Feng no longer cared. Even if those people found out, he had a system, and even if the person in charge of this place was also a system owner, he didn't think about doing anything at this point. Let's not talk about this now. Since this matter has been entrusted to us, and we've been told to go and check it out, we'll go and see. We can't expect to encounter anything else, but it's really strange. We were the ones who let these people out, but there were several people who came in together. It's very possible that other people came later. Chen Feng followed them in after they entered. The people who had come here saw the ones now locked up inside. The guards outside immediately understood what was going on and were about to go find them when they saw Chen Feng standing in front of them. Chen Feng smiled at them, and they made a threatening gesture. They didn't know Chen Feng's identity, but Yi Shen's sudden appearance was something they hadn't noticed before. Now they assumed Chen Feng had entered on his own. They looked at Chen Feng and spoke to him. Whatever your reason for suddenly appearing here, you need to make this clear to us now. I'm not sure what you're trying to do at this time, but these people here are not people you can mess with right now. We're not some useless bunch. What exactly do you want to do right now? He looked at them and thought about the situation. In any case, he needed to clarify things now. Of course, Chen Feng didn't say anything at this moment. He just moved closer to those people. The guards were a little scared, but suddenly attacked Chen Feng. Those who already knew Chen Feng's strength knew they couldn't beat him this time. However, the few who had just entered this place still thought they might be able to defeat him. They looked in that direction and thought about their current situation. They never expected to provoke such people. They never expected to provoke such a powerful person. They were well aware of Chen Feng's strength. None of them could defeat him at this moment. He felt somewhat helpless, but regardless, they had to find a solution. He glanced in that direction again, pondering how to resolve the situation. Seeing Chen Feng's complete disregard for them during their fight only fueled their anger. When had they ever been treated with such indifference? He looked at Chen Feng again, reflecting on their predicament. Since they had encountered this situation, they had to find a way to resolve it. He took a few more steps in that direction and, looking at the group, was surprised to find that their attacks couldn't harm Chen Feng at all. I didn't mean to bring this up now, but no matter what, you have to find a way to tell me what happened, where my friends were taken. I don't care if you know anything about these things, you just have to tell me. Those people realized their attack couldn't possibly reach Mount Lu and were starting to get scared. But they also found it strange that if he possessed such strength, why would he enter this place at this time? This place was just a scam to deceive ordinary people, claiming it could make them stronger. Who are you? You're probably just someone who wants to become stronger. How did you get into this place at this time? What's going on? Tell us first, Otherwise don't blame us for being impolite. We didn't actually attack you at that time." When Chen Feng heard them say this, he smiled at them, saying that only they themselves could believe that they hadn't attacked him at that moment. Chen Feng didn't want to say it directly and moved closer to them. "You don't need to learn these things from me. I can't tell you. But no matter what, you have to make this clear now. Whatever you want to do or what you want to know, I can't tell you. But you must tell me what I need to know." Hearing this, the people looked at Chen Feng angrily. How could they not understand that Chen Feng was threatening them? But they seemed to have no other choice. After all, they couldn't beat him, and they already knew how those people had been trapped in this place by Yixin. Chapter 354 The World of Ninjas. They took his friend away this time, so it seems they really have offended him. Chen Feng only smiled at them and stepped back a little. Suddenly, he launched a powerful attack at their side. They were frightened at this moment and did not know how to talk about it, so they could only tell Chen Feng at this moment. "We really don't know anything about this matter. We just took your friends to be handed over to others. It's always like this. We can only send people out at this time, but we don't know where those people are taken. And don't be angry about this." After they realized this, they understood that Chen Feng was not someone they could mess with at this time. No matter what, they had to think of a way to keep Chen Feng from getting angry. Although they were indeed a little afraid of the people here, what use would their fear be if Chen Feng dealt with them now? They looked towards Chen Feng again and thought about what they were going through. No matter what, since they had encountered these things, they had to think of a way to resolve them. So they took a few more steps in that direction. When they looked at those people and found that their attacks could not hurt Chen Feng at all, they were quite surprised. "I didn't mean to bring this up now, but no matter what, you have to find a way to tell me what happened, where my friends were taken. I don't care if you know anything about these things, you just have to tell me." Those people realized their attacks couldn't possibly harm Lushan and were starting to get scared. But they also found it strange that if he possessed such strength, why would he enter this place at this time? This place was just a scam to deceive ordinary people, claiming it could make them stronger. "Who are you? You're probably just someone who wants to become stronger. How did you get into this place at this time? What's going on? Tell us first, otherwise don't blame us for being impolite. We didn't actually attack you at that moment." When Chen Feng heard them say this, he smiled at them, saying that only they themselves could believe that they hadn't attacked him at that time. Chen Feng didn't want to say it directly and moved closer to them. "You don't need to learn these things from me. I can't tell you. But no matter what, you have to make this clear now. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to know, I can't tell you. But you must tell me what I need to know." Hearing this, the men looked at Chen Feng angrily. How could they not understand that Chen Feng was threatening them? But they seemed to have no other choice. After all, they couldn't beat him, and they already knew how Yixin had trapped those men here. Taking his friends away this time showed they had indeed provoked him. They could only step back slightly. Chen Feng simply smiled at them and suddenly unleashed a powerful attack beside them. They were startled and didn't know what to say, so they could only speak to Chen Feng for now. "We really don't know anything about this. We just took your friends to someone else. It's always like this. We can only have someone take them out at this time. But where those people are taken is not something we can know. And please don't be angry about this." After they all realized what was happening, they understood that Chen Feng was not someone they could afford to provoke at this time. They had to find a way to appease Yixin before things got really bad. Although they were indeed afraid of these people, what good would their fear be if Chen Feng dealt with them now? Chen Feng simply watched them. Even Yixin's system was quite surprised. It hadn't expected anyone to dare do such things in this place. They were also wondering what was going on, but understanding this wasn't something they could solve on their own. Their system shouldn't be able to do such a thing in any world, which puzzled him. He had never encountered a system like this before, it only issued missions at this time. How could anyone be cultivating in these places at this hour? Even if they wanted to cultivate, they shouldn't be here. If they cultivated elsewhere, no one would say anything, but this was the ninja world, completely different from their cultivation world. He himself found this strange and looked around as he pondered the matter. He glanced around, knowing he had to find a solution. But given the current situation, he needed to figure out how to proceed. Looking at the people around him, he felt a pang of helplessness and walked in another direction. "If you're unwilling to tell me, I'll destroy this place right now. Whether you're still here or not is none of my business." You've probably hurt many people anyway. I don't believe you don't know what those you took out will encounter." Chen Feng's expression was genuinely angry as he spoke. He knew exactly what had happened to those transvestites they'd taken out. Yi-Shen couldn't believe they didn't. They must know, which was why he was so angry. He simply looked at them again at this moment. He hadn't originally intended to hurt these people, but if doing so would alert those around him, he wasn't afraid to try. Even if they noticed, he had the system and didn't care. If he relied solely on the system to fight, it wasn't impossible for him to defeat them. He was sure he had a way to resolve the situation. He thought for a moment, then glanced at Chen Zhengfei again, determined to find out where Lu Shi and Wang Zai had been taken. Chapter 355 Helplessness. Those other people who were taken away should be in that place too, very likely the place where they found Lu Shi's friend. They had promised Lu Shi they would find his friend, but now they had to go there first. Thinking of this, Chen Feng smiled helplessly, but he was determined to fight that person. Chen Feng wanted to learn more about this from these events, but judging from their appearance, they clearly weren't willing to tell him everything. Since that was the case, Chen Feng needed to think of another way to figure things out. So he looked around again. He didn't know what those people wanted, but at this moment, he needed to find a way to understand. He looked around again. The place where Lu and the others were taken might be the place he had just been, but he hadn't seen anyone bring them there. "I can avoid harming you at this time, but I have some other things to understand. You need to listen to me and explain clearly. If you can't resolve this, don't blame me for being impolite. Now, come with me to that place." He looked around as he said this. Although he didn't know what they wanted, since they had brought it up, he needed to find a way to resolve it. So he looked at them again. He looked at these people again. Although he wasn't sure what they wanted, there was always a way to resolve this. He looked at the guards, feeling somewhat afraid, yet watching the process. "You can tell us anything you need right now. We can do whatever you ask. Just tell us what it is, and we'll do it." As he spoke, he glanced around. They thought about how things were going, and realized that a solution was indeed needed. Now that things had come to this point, he wanted to see how to resolve the situation. Chen Feng smiled at them. "I don't have any other requests, but you need to come with me to find out some things. I need you to take me somewhere." "Which direction did you take these people out from here?" "When I came back, I didn't see anyone pass by that direction." Hearing this, the guards stopped being afraid. They knew exactly which direction they had taken the people out from, and they could tell Yi-Shen about it. As long as Chen Feng didn't harm them, they could find a way to resolve the situation. They smiled at Chen Feng. Since the problem could be solved, they were no longer afraid of Yi-Shen. Seeing them like this, he was naturally happy, because they clearly knew how to get in from that direction. He then looked at them again. "Since that's the case, then please take us there to see. I have many things I want to understand at this time. If I find you secretly sending people there again, don't blame me for being impolite. However, there are some things I can ask you to do for me." Chen Feng looked at them. What he was saying was clear. He was willing to take them there to see, as long as they could help him understand these things. He didn't care too much about anything else. But he wanted to find a way to solve these problems at this time, so he looked at the people here. Hearing this, the people didn't dare to hesitate. Just as Chen Feng said, they had to find a way to solve this problem, even now. He looked at them again and felt a little helpless, but he still spoke to them first. "No matter what, as long as you tell us now, we are willing to do as you say, as long as you tell us what it is. But if you want to know where those people were taken, we really can't help you with that. Those people have never let us go there." Chen Feng smiled when he heard this. Of course, he didn't send them over there. It was such a dangerous place. If they were really sent there, these people would definitely be frightened. He just wanted to check on them. Chen Feng was also thinking about this. He thought of another way. He checked with the guards and saw if they needed his help. Instead of trying to find a way in and having them discover his identity, he decided to have them treat him like Lu Lin and his group and send him there. With his strength, even if he was there, he could still bring them out. He looked at the guards and told them, "I want you to tell those people that there's someone here who needs to be taken over there. Just do as I say and tell them. Once they take me to another place, you won't have to worry about this anymore. I certainly won't harm you." As he spoke, he glanced at them. Those men hesitated slightly, unsure if they should proceed. But seeing Chen Feng's expression, they understood. He was simply informing them, not offering any choice or setting them against their will. They felt a sense of helplessness. However, they had no choice but to follow Chen Feng's instructions. At this point, if they disobeyed him, he could eliminate them on the spot. Even with the help of others, they had no other option but to listen to Chen Feng and figure out a solution later. Whether Chen Feng faced danger there was none of their concern, it was Chen Feng's decision. They could have simply ignored it. They looked at Chen Feng again, realizing that this was the best version of Chen Feng, and they were even happy that he might face danger. Chapter 356 Hesitation. If Chen Feng is indeed sent to that place, and that place is truly as Chen Feng described, then those people will definitely be happy that Chen Feng has been dealt with. After all, they can't beat someone like Chen Feng, but if the people inside can handle Yushin, then who else can harm them? Moreover, if they send Chen Feng in now, it will make others think they are just taking these few people there, and no one will think they have betrayed them at this time. Since Chen Feng and his group haven't taken any action yet, by the time the next group of people are brought in, Chen Feng will probably have already been dealt with. In that case, we will do as you say, but you will need to be patient for now. We need to find a way to make you faint, and only after you faint can we take you to that place. Please don't be angry about this. He glanced at Chen Feng as he said this, but Chen Feng, after hearing their words, thought about it and looked back at them. Those people immediately felt a sense of fear, especially under Chen Feng's gaze. They could tell that Chen Feng was suspicious of them. He suspected they were deliberately lying at this moment. Of course, Chen Feng was deliberately looking at them because he knew that someone among them definitely wanted to get rid of him at this moment. However, he didn't say he had to faint at this moment. He was thinking about whether there was a way to resolve this situation if the person with the system appeared while he was still unconscious when those people took him to that place. Now, Chen Feng didn't need to hesitate at all. He was certain that someone in this place definitely possessed a system, and it was very likely the person who supposedly made them stronger. He definitely possessed a system, otherwise, they wouldn't be cultivating in this place. He was referring, of course, to the cultivation methods of immortality. He looked around and thought about the matter. It seemed he would need the system's help again. If the system could help him deceive these people into thinking he had fainted, but he hadn't, the problem would be solved. He considered this and felt it was the only way. However, he wasn't sure if the system could really do it, so he hesitated. But it was just hesitation. He could check with the system to see if it was possible. So, Chen Feng spoke to his system. You've heard what we were saying. Can you help me with this? I can't let them think I fainted. If I encounter someone with this system, they can easily eliminate me. Do you have a solution? The system was silent for a moment, then told Chen Feng that it could do it. It needed his help now, otherwise, the person with the system would get it, meaning Chen Feng would be eliminated by that other system, and then that system could upgrade, and he didn't know what would happen next. That's precisely why it's necessary to help 1.5 resolve this matter. Since no one else has been harmed and the system has indeed done these things, there's no need for him to be polite anymore. Besides, he's only helping Chen Feng with this matter. Whether he can truly win depends on Chen Feng's current strength. So, after some further thought, the system decided to agree to Chen Feng's request first. Otherwise, if Chen Feng were to encounter such danger, they wouldn't be able to handle the accepted mission. Chen Feng waited for the system to tell him these things. If the system didn't speak, he wouldn't dare to take any other action. Whether this matter can be resolved or not, tell me later. Otherwise, if these people see that I'm hesitating because of this, it will be dangerous. Just tell me whether this matter can be resolved. There's no need to rush anything else at this time. He told the system this at that moment, and the system, without hesitation, told Chen Feng that it could resolve the matter. Chen Feng simply smiled. Since the system said it could solve the problem, he could figure out a way to handle it himself. He then looked at the guards, who seemed to be waiting for him to speak. Chen Feng smiled at them and saw their fearful expressions. They were truly afraid of him. But this pleased Chen Feng. Their fear meant they wouldn't dare harm him, allowing him to carry out his plan. He looked at them and said, I can let you do it now. The matter is already resolved, so there's nothing more to say. You just need to wait and I'll tell you how to resolve it. There's no need to tell me anything else now. He glanced at them again, then smiled. Those watching were even more surprised by his expression. They hadn't expected him to actually agree to these things. If he were not unconscious, it would already be very dangerous. But considering that Chen Feng's actions were always dangerous, they figured he wouldn't be afraid of such things. They just glanced at Chen Feng again, not mentioning the matter, and assumed he had thought of something. Chen Feng told them to go now, since they had just sent Lu Shi and the others to that place, and coming directly here now would be dangerous. Of course, Chen Feng had already discussed it with them. They wouldn't do anything to harm Lu Shi at this time. He understood the situation. They wouldn't mention harming Lu Shi now. Before that, they seemed to need to do something else. He thought about it again. They still needed to find Su Bao. Chen Feng was also thinking about how to resolve this matter, and what those people's motives were. He needed to figure out what was going on with them. When the time came for Chen Feng to make the appointment with those people, he told them that he only asked them to come to this place to find him and to take him around at this time. As for those things, if they were brought up, they should tell those people that he had encountered some other things at that time and went out to do some things. Chapter 357 Spiritual Power. When he returned, he discovered his companions were suddenly gone. This was the solution Chen Feng had come up with. In Chen Feng's view, this solution wasn't particularly difficult. In fact, it allowed him to resolve his plans at this moment. He simply chuckled, thinking that this matter could be resolved now. What exactly happened? Didn't you say that everyone in the room should have come out by now? Didn't you tell these people who came in this time not to leave the room and to stay inside? Why are we encountering these things again? Chen Feng, hearing that it seemed to be people looking for them, was very angry. However, he didn't say anything, just pretended to be very anxious because his friends were missing. At that moment, he suddenly walked towards this place, encountering some other things. More people walked in their direction, seemingly sensing something. Although no one mentioned these things, they just looked around again. When they came in and saw Chen Feng, they were indeed very angry, even though their previous matter had already been resolved. When someone enters this place, you should explain everything clearly to them, telling them not to let anyone else in, and that we should come here to take them back. If this happens again, you should tell them what to do if any of the people who came and go missing. They didn't want to come back at this time either. Even if they had asked someone to be taken out before, it would have been the same thing, simply sending the person back to their place. They could have just sent them in. But this time, they have to solve Chen Feng's problem themselves. How could they not be angry? We've already told them before, but this person seemed to have encountered something else and went out on his own. We don't know the details. We weren't scared when we couldn't find him then, so we didn't dare tell the leaders. Now they are really scared. If they don't solve what Chen Feng asked them to do, and Chen Feng gets upset and just takes care of them now, they don't even dare to think about it. This person's strength is much greater than they thought. Those people didn't realize what they were thinking, and only thought Chen Feng was a coincidence. Those left behind simply looked in that direction again, and then, deciding to leave, they took Chen Feng away. Chen Feng, now empty-handed, still looked frightened, glancing around. The others, though angry and some afraid, approached Chen Feng, seemingly wanting to say something. The guard who had spoken to Chen Feng earlier watched him. They knew Chen Feng's strength well, and they feared he might do something to provoke him, leading to his immediate elimination. They didn't dare consider how to deal with him. His strength far surpassed theirs. They were somewhat astonished. The only thing to do now was to keep Chen Feng from getting angry. These people had indeed acted according to their own whims when they were brought in, and some of them could even harm him. Their status here was higher than his. But now, the guards spoke to Chen Feng first. They'll take you to find your companions now. You've been wanting to find them, so don't be angry about it. We'll take you there now. As for other things, we can figure them out later. He smiled at them as he said this. Although he hadn't told them to leave, it was better to think of a solution now. They didn't have anything to say at this point. They needed to think about other things first, and then discuss these matters. They looked in that direction. There were still many things he needed to understand. Chen Feng needed to enter that place first to find Lu Shi and the others. If you can help me find my friend, I'll go with you right now. Whatever you ask me to do, I'll do it. As long as you let me find my friend, I'll do whatever you ask. He said this in a fearful tone. The men who came to capture Chen Feng sneered, but I was terrified by their actions, especially since Ye Shen was angry. None of them could defeat Chen Feng at this moment. Chen Feng only glanced at them, and they understood his meaning. He didn't want them to reveal his identity. They could only watch as the men led Chen Feng away, But they didn't know what they would encounter or what Chen Feng would do. The men were also somewhat angry as they led Chen Feng away. They only needed to take Lu Tai and the others to where they were supposed to be, but they hadn't come. They were wronged, they weren't allowed to enter that place at that time. So, they had no choice but to come out and take Chen Feng and the others back at this time. They were very angry, but there was no other way. After all, this was something they always had to do. So, Zinaoshi took Chen Feng back at this time. Chen Feng didn't say anything else to them. He just looked at them again. When they led him to a certain place, he sensed that there was something there. There was a power around, although it wasn't too strong. Chen Feng could feel it. This was spiritual power, the spiritual power the cultivators needed. But Chen Feng didn't know where this spiritual power came from. He could only sense it. He looked around again. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Severe Injury. He was furious about this, but there was nothing else he could do to resolve it. The only recourse was to let the others observe. Don't wander around like that. These places aren't for just anyone. If we see you peeking somewhere again, don't blame us for being ruthless. Because of you, we'll have to go out and bring you back in. Don't provoke us. Chen Feng stepped back, seemingly frightened. The others looked at him smugly. Just as they suspected, this person didn't seem particularly strong. Perhaps. He glanced at Chen Feng again, giving him a cold smile. After entering this place, everything you encounter is up to you. You chose to enter this place because you wanted to become stronger. They agreed to this and will make you stronger. But everything else, besides becoming stronger, depends on your own thoughts. He glanced at Chen Feng, giving him a disdainful smile. Chen Feng seemed unconcerned. He had already achieved his goal and didn't need to say anything more. So he followed them into the place, pondering what to do next. Looking around, he saw many people in prison here, but he didn't fully understand why they were there. He simply wanted to find a solution to these situations, nothing else mattered. He looked around again, thinking about how to proceed and what was going on. He still couldn't see Lu Shi and the others, but those people just glanced at Du Chun and gave him a disdainful smile. In their view, these people must have many things they wanted to know. Anyway, at this point, he was also thinking about how to handle this situation and what he should do in this situation. He just looked in that direction again. I don't have anything to say at this time. Anyway, there are some things that need to be understood at this time. Since you've already talked about this, and you seem to really want to find your friend, let's keep you together for now. Actually, what you're about to encounter is not so pleasant. The person smiled at Chen Feng and led him to a certain place. After he entered Chen Feng's room, he looked at him again, just smiled coldly, and turned to leave. Chen Feng looked in that direction and saw Lu Shi standing there, seemingly having fainted. Ye Shen didn't know what had happened. So he moved a little closer in that direction, thinking about the situation he was in. He needed to find a solution, so he only moved a little closer. When he saw Lu Tai and the others, he looked around them. Lu Shi, have you seen where Wang Zai is? How were you brought here? Tell me first, or do you still not understand what happened? What did they do? Why are you still unconscious? He hadn't mentioned this before, and it was indeed very strange. From the time he discovered Lu Tai and the others being brought here, Lu Tai couldn't possibly still be unconscious. What had those people done? He saw that Lu Shi seemed somewhat helpless about this. He wanted to figure out what was going on, but Lu Tai was still unconscious. It wasn't something he could solve by just thinking about it. Thinking about this, Chen Feng was somewhat helpless, and could only look in that direction again. He still needed to think of a way to figure this out. He glanced in Lu Shi's direction again, needing to think of a solution, but he wasn't entirely sure what it was. He just kept looking in that direction, figuring things out before making any further moves. Just then, someone else entered. Chen Feng looked in that direction. Since you've entered this place, this person is now yours. He's probably your friend. You came here to find your friend, so are you returning him to you now? How you resolve this matter is up to you. The person who came and glanced at Chen Feng, seemingly unwilling to say anything at this moment. He appeared hesitant, as if something was amiss. Then they brought in Wang Zai, who appeared to be injured. Chen Feng was initially taken aback. The person then placed Wang Zai beside them and left. He glanced at Chen Feng again, saying nothing. However, Chen Feng noticed that the person had secretly placed something beside Wang Zai as he left. He picked it up and examined it. It was something that could be used to heal Wang Zai's injuries. Chen Feng was surprised. He hadn't expected this person to leave them such a thing. Why would he help them in this situation? He looked around, pondering their predicament. He did find it strange, but for now, he didn't say anything. It was just a problem, they could figure out a solution later. He looked around, considering other options. He had nothing else to say at this moment. Chen Feng then glanced in that direction again. He was already surprised to see Wang Zai injured when he entered. How could he have encountered such a situation? He walked towards Wang Zai's direction again, feeling anxious about what had happened. He was hesitant because of these events. He had some suspicions about Wang Zai, but since Wang Zai had already entered this place, he figured he might as well go and check on him first. Seeing that Wang Zai was indeed injured, he hesitated, but the person had already spoken to him. I don't know exactly how he is, but I'm sure he's injured. You're probably this person's friend, so you should check on him now. If you can resolve this, that would be best. Otherwise, he'll be taken somewhere else. Chapter 359 Lukewan. As he spoke, he looked at Chen Feng and pondered the situation, unsure how to resolve it. After speaking with Chen Feng, the man left, leaving him with no other option but to help him. Chen Feng, hearing this, also considered what to do. He decided to go to Wang Zai first, noticing the items left by the guard who had brought him there, indeed for healing. He found it strange that these people had brought them there and then brought them back to heal them. He thought there must be a reason, so he decided to treat Wang Zai now. Just then, Lu Shi woke up. He froze when he saw Chen Feng, then noticed Wang Zai's injuries. Immediately after Lu Shi woke up, someone entered, seemingly intending to do something. Chen Feng immediately blocked Lu Shi's path. What do you want to do at this time? Or do you have some purpose in doing this? In any case, explain this to us clearly first, and then we'll figure out how to resolve this situation. What exactly do you want to do at this time? The person who entered was a different guard. He didn't have the things Wang Zai had left for him earlier. He found that person a bit strange. It seemed that these people weren't doing the same thing. Lu Shi was also stunned when he saw Yishin. He thought they were still in the place they were originally in. How did they end up here? What's going on here? This doesn't seem to be the place we were in before. Where is this? Why did these people bring us here at this time? Or do they have some other purpose? Can you tell me? I'm really scared of what I see here. He seemed a bit anxious as he spoke, and he looked at them again. However, when they heard what they were saying, the guards looked at each other. They thought about what had happened, but at least for now, at least they were being watched. Chen Feng, observing the people around him, pondered how to resolve the situation. He couldn't allow them to take Lu Tai out again. Wang Zai was already under attack, so Lu Tai couldn't be allowed to encounter the same trouble. He looked at Lu Shi, hesitated for a moment, then glanced at the others. He was certain he wouldn't allow anyone here to harm him. The others, seeing Chen Feng act first, they hadn't seen him when they arrived, but assumed he'd just been brought here, didn't seem afraid. You woke up at this time too. Since that's the case, why don't we go see the person next to you who also woke up at this time? We already took him out earlier, so we'll leave him here. You all come with me now. Lu Shi was stunned when he heard this. He wasn't sure what these people wanted to do at this moment, but Chen Feng couldn't really listen to what he said at this time. Going with them would indeed allow him to find out about this matter, but at this moment, he wanted to understand how they planned to handle the next situation. He looked at Lu Shi again and could see that Lu Shi was very anxious. He was probably also a little scared. After all, when he woke up, he saw Wang Zai was injured like that, and they were still trapped here by these people. Right Fist was a little helpless, but then he looked at them again. I don't care what you want to do at this moment, but these people are my friends. If you want to hurt him at this moment, I will not allow such a thing to happen. You should explain what you want to do first, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. He looked at the group of people. But the guards who had entered seemed to think he had said something ridiculous. After all, he had been brought here by them, and they hadn't expected Chen Feng to have come here willingly. They thought he was here to find someone, so they glanced at the schedule with disdain. Chen Feng knew exactly what these people were thinking, but he didn't need to get angry over it. What he needed to do was figure out their purpose and then get them out of there. He wanted to get Lu Shi and the others out of there. He couldn't let them stay here at this moment. The guards looked at Lu Quan with disdain. In their eyes, Chen Feng wasn't someone with much strength, and threatening him with these words seemed ridiculous. They looked at him with disdain again, not wanting to say anything more to Chen Feng. They immediately stepped forward to prepare to arrest Chen Feng and the others. As for Wang Zai and the others, they didn't even consider going to see him at this moment. They had already been taken there, and even if they wanted to get him there, they would have to wait a while. Of course, they also found some things strange. If Ye Shen had only just been brought here, how could he have woken up so soon? Lu Shi had also just woken up. They were also puzzled by these things. They could sense that this person was stronger than them. But if he really had such strength, why would he have come here? They felt that Chen Feng must have done something else at this time. They just didn't think this person possessed any particularly great strength, so they simply looked in Chen Feng's direction again. They were trying to figure out what was going on. Chen Feng didn't care about their thoughts. He simply looked at them again, considering the situation. No matter what, only he could solve this problem. So he looked at them and, without hesitation, spoke directly to them. I already told you before that if you want to understand these things now, you need to tell me yourselves. Whatever you're thinking, let me understand your purpose first. Otherwise, don't even think about taking any of us out of here. As he said this, he looked around and saw that they had said it directly. Anyway, Wang Zai was already injured, and he couldn't possibly let them take Lu Tai out at this time. This was something Chen Feng was unwilling to do. Hearing this, those people smiled at Chen Feng with some disdain. Chapter 360 Formidable Strength. They found Chen Feng's words laughable. He wasn't someone with a particularly strong appetite, yet he dared to speak to them like this. If he truly possessed such strength, why would he need to be here at this time? So they simply looked at Chen Feng with disdain. Considering their current situation, they decided not to waste any more time arguing with him. They had their own matters to resolve, but Chen Feng's continued obstruction was infuriating. While they had sensed Chen Feng's considerable strength earlier, they couldn't possibly follow his advice. They glanced at the others, then at Chen Feng again, offering him a cold smile. We don't want to say anything more to you right now. It's either you step aside and let us resolve this, or we have to take action. You should know very well that if we intervene, all of you will get hurt. I don't think you have the strength for that. He looked at Chen Feng as he said this. Chen Feng was angry about this, but he had no other way to resolve the situation except to fight them. He didn't want anyone here to be in danger. Lu Tai and Wang Zai also glanced at them. The guards also seemed displeased. After all, no one had ever dared to provoke them before. So they immediately walked in that direction. They were determined to resolve this matter, no matter what. But just as they were about to reach out and grab Chen Feng, he also felt angry. He had no time to hesitate with them now. This matter had to be resolved now, regardless of their wishes. He simply looked in their direction. I've already told you, tell me your purpose first, but since you're unwilling to talk, don't blame me for being impolite. I don't know anything about this anyway, you just need to let me know what you're planning to do by taking us somewhere right now. Just as the guards were about to arrest him, he attacked them. Since they weren't going to listen to him anyway, Chen Feng saw no need to be impolite. These people couldn't understand what he was saying anyway, and he didn't want to hesitate any longer. He couldn't possibly let them get hurt. He didn't want to see his men get injured. He simply glanced at them again. The guards were also quite surprised. They hadn't expected Chen Feng to possess such strength. They had been trying to figure out how to resolve this situation, but unexpectedly, they encountered this predicament. Finally, they looked in his direction, also wondering how to handle the situation. Clearly, someone with real strength had emerged, and they were all watching Chen Feng. Since you possess such formidable strength, why did you enter this place? What is your purpose? Judging from your appearance, you don't seem to be here to become stronger. So what exactly do you intend to do at this time? And those people who let you in back then must have deliberately concealed your strength. As he said this, he glanced at Chen Feng. It wasn't like Chen Feng. Other powerful individuals had entered this place to try and figure out what was inside, but they had all been dealt with. What could Chen Feng possibly do at this moment? So he simply smiled at Chen Feng again. Even if Chen Feng possessed immense strength, it wouldn't solve this matter. They were going to do things their way, and he just glanced at Chen Feng again. All they needed to do was capture them now. Even if they couldn't capture Chen Feng, someone else would take care of things later. People with such powerful strength shouldn't have come here in the first place. Since they were here, they must have other purposes. There was no need for them to be let off the hook. He just glanced at him again. Chen Feng wasn't sure what the guards were thinking, but their smiles angered him. He didn't want to say anything more to them, and if they dared to act like that again, he certainly wouldn't let them off so easily. He glanced at them. Those who wanted to take Chen Feng away were surprised, because they hadn't expected the person here to possess such strength. He could defeat them so easily. It wasn't for any other reason. If he had such strength, he wouldn't have come to this place. When they were telling those people how to become stronger, it was just to lure them here, because the people here needed these people for cultivation. But why was this person here? So they looked at Chen Feng with serious expressions and asked him. We can't be sure why you came here at this time, but shouldn't you tell us why you suddenly infiltrated our place? You should at least let us know your reasons now. Otherwise, even if you have such great strength, don't blame us for being impolite. They looked at Chen Feng as they said this, already angry about what had happened. However, Chen Feng simply smiled at them, just as he expected. They were still going to say these things, and he just kept looking at them. He wasn't sure what they wanted to do, but since they had already brought it up, why should he say anything more? Besides, seeing that they were unlikely to let them out, he just smiled coldly at them and said, why should I tell you all this? You should know very well that even if I explained everything to you, you wouldn't let us out now. You probably want to just get rid of us, don't you? Chapter 361 Cultivation Tools. He glanced at the group as he spoke, but they didn't seem to care. Since Chen Feng knew the secret of this place, they couldn't let him go now. If you were to reveal it, they would face even greater danger. It's true, whether you reveal it or not, we can't let you go. But why did you have to approach this place at this time? Why did you have to come here and learn all this? Since you've discovered these things, we can't let you leave. Chen Feng smiled at this. What was the point of him telling them? What was the point of telling them why he entered this place? So he simply smiled coldly at them again. I'm not sure what you want to do at this time, but since you've already come this far, what's the point of saying anything now? We just need to think about these things further and see how to resolve them. He glanced at them again, indeed hesitant because of these matters, pondering how to resolve the situation. Having already encountered these problems, they only needed to think about their next move. So, he looked at them, also considering their options. Those people glanced at Chen Feng again, their hesitation stemming from Chen Feng's strength. They couldn't ascertain the extent of his power. If he was stronger than the master here, they needed to consider whether they should harm Chen Feng or even attempt to kill him. He then said to him, I still can't determine who did this. I just need to clarify things with you. I can't identify who secretly took your power out at this time, but I can handle this. At that moment, he glanced at Wang Zai and smiled at him. No matter how powerful the person with the system was, he could resolve this matter at this time. However, he felt that he shouldn't have brought Wang Zai and Lu Shi into this place at this time, causing them to encounter so much danger. Of course I know you can handle this. You're the strongest among us, so only you can do it right now. Of course, you also need to be careful. Those people are very powerful. I was brought here and only woke up when they took me to another place. He looked at Chen Feng helplessly as he said this. He hadn't expected this situation, nor had he anticipated encountering such things. He could only tell Chen Feng about it now. Chen Feng also found it strange. How did they manage to take them all away without anyone noticing? He wanted to understand, but he only looked at Chen Feng again, then at Wang Zai, still feeling somewhat helpless. So he continued, don't think about these things now. Rest for a bit. You've already suffered enough. We'll think of other ways to solve this later. Don't worry, we'll think of other ways to solve this later. Don't think about anything else right now. He glanced at him as he spoke, not mentioning the matter directly, but indicating he needed to reconsider how to resolve the situation. Wang Zai, meanwhile, looked at Chen Feng, certain he could handle it. No matter how powerful those people were, Chen Feng could defeat them if he wanted to. Of course, this required Chen Feng's willingness. She looked at Chen Feng, considering their current predicament, wanting to ascertain his thoughts, whether he intended to eliminate them directly. Those people might return. Judging from their earlier visit, the person they were dealing with seemed very angry, and their capture revealed his high status. His anger would likely lead him to bring even more powerful figures to deal with Chen Feng. Therefore, Wang Zai decided to clarify things with Chen Feng, not solely for his own benefit. They were already together, and if Chen Feng encountered danger, Lu Shi alone couldn't handle it. They were watching him, even if only to offer assistance. It was also necessary to clarify things with Chen Feng at this time. Moreover, those people were incredibly powerful, and what puzzled him even more was why they possessed such strength, things he had never understood before. This was clearly not something a human should use. He had never seen ninjas use such things. So, looking at Chen Feng and considering their current predicament, since he was already injured and much of his power had been secretly taken away, it was better to explain things clearly. Therefore, he spoke to Chen Feng, regardless, you need to be careful right now. I'm not sure what those people's purpose is, but what I do know is that they possess immense strength, enough to defeat you. However, I don't know how they acquired their power. Chen Feng understood this, but he hadn't intended to tell him. He knew perfectly well what was going on, because those people weren't cultivating using their own methods, but rather using these people as tools for their own cultivation. Chapter 362 You're too strong. However, he couldn't tell them this at this time. He could only talk to them about other things now. As for what they were going through, he didn't want to say more at this moment. He just looked at them and smiled again. He smiled at him, telling him not to rush things. In fact, Chen Feng already knew that they were ninjas. They used other methods to cultivate. But Chen Feng wanted to know more about what method they were using to cultivate at this time, and why they needed to bring so many people to this place. This matter was definitely not what he thought. These people must have other purposes. So he just looked in that direction again, and then looked at Lu Shi. He could see that Lu Shi was very anxious, and he wanted to help him solve some problems. So he looked at him again and thought about what he was going through. Anyway, Lu Shi was already injured, and he didn't want him to encounter any more trouble at this time. So he smiled at him again, thought about what they were going through, hesitated for a moment, and then spoke to him. I can tell you all this now, but please don't mind. Those people are probably using you all to cultivate, but I can't be sure what methods they're using. I can only tell you that they were using you all to cultivate. Yuzu was stunned when she heard this. She then looked at Chen Feng. She hadn't expected to encounter these things, and what puzzled her even more was how those people were using her to cultivate. She wanted to figure this out as well, so she looked at Chen Feng again. She wanted to understand these things now, since she was already injured and couldn't afford to encounter anything more dangerous. She thought it better to understand things from Chen Feng first. So she looked at Chen Feng, but hesitated for a moment. Then she thought that she was already injured, so why hesitate because of this? But she might as well explain everything to him. So she looked at Chen Feng again. Without any further hesitation, she suddenly grabbed the person who had just spoken to her. I have some things I'd like to understand at this time. Could you tell me how they took advantage of our cultivation? We're already injured, and the power has been taken away. I'm more interested in figuring things out. You can tell me, right? Chen Feng looked at him, but he didn't intend to tell him these things, nor did he want to. He had his own issues to resolve, so he looked at them. He saw that Lu Shi also wanted to understand these things. He saw that Lu Shi also wanted to know how this was done, but he couldn't tell him everything, especially Lu Shi, his friend. If he stayed here for a while, even if he took him out now, he wouldn't be able to do anything else. So he looked at them. He looked at them, thinking about their current situation. Although they didn't really have much to say, he still wanted to help them. He moved closer and spoke to them without any hesitation, appearing very confident and without any worry. So they were actually quite optimistic. I can explain everything to you now. He was indeed influenced and poisoned at that time, but I don't know the exact details. Those people were just using you to cultivate, which I learned from the disappearance of your power at that time. He could only tell them this much? Before confirming who possessed the system, he couldn't tell them everything at this moment. He didn't want to encounter more danger at this time. He looked at them. And Wang Zai and Lu Shi seemed a little unhappy about this. However, since Chen Feng didn't seem unwilling to tell them, they didn't know that Chen Feng actually knew what was going on, but he just didn't want to tell them. They also thought that Chen Feng was probably just unaware of the situation and looked at him again. Chen Feng smiled at them, promising that he could definitely resolve the matter. He promised that he could find that person at this time, no matter what method he used to hide. He smiled at them and thought about these things. However, this matter can be resolved. Regardless of those people's strength, since he had already promised them, he could resolve it directly. At least he could prevent them from encountering any further danger. He glanced in the direction of those people, and then at the others who had been brought to this place. Chen Feng looked at these people. They were already quite frightened, so none of them dared to approach this place at this moment. He then looked at Lu Shi and Wang Zai. Wang Zai was already injured, and although Su Bao wasn't injured, he seemed even more frightened. Moreover, Lu Shi simply couldn't possibly have much fighting power here. Compared to those cultivators, he had no chance of defeating them at this time. He hesitated for a moment, deciding to keep an eye on Wang Zai first, as that was the only way he could possibly get help. I have some things I need to tell you now. Until your injuries heal, we have to stay here for now. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous for me to lead you forward at this time, and I don't want to do that. As he spoke, he glanced around. He wasn't sure if Wang Zai was willing to listen to him. After all, Chen Feng was probably very angry that his strength had suddenly disappeared. He wasn't afraid that Wang Zai would lie to him about this matter, because he had already confirmed that much of his power had disappeared at this moment. Chapter 363 Other Reasons. When Wang Zai heard this, he smiled at Lu Sheng. Having already encountered such danger, why dwell on it further? He glanced at Chen Feng and smiled back. Regardless, he was happy that Chen Feng was willing to come and help them. Judging from Chen Feng's appearance, he must have entered the area and fought with these people, forcing them to retreat. He smiled wryly, but was still grateful for Chen Feng's words and continued help. He was very thankful and looked at Chen Feng again before speaking. You don't need to tell me this now. You shouldn't have come here at this time. What I'm saying is, when you went out, we knocked you unconscious and brought you here. Actually, when I woke up, I didn't see you here, and now you're here. He said this when he saw Chen Feng. If it's really as he thinks, then Chen Feng must have willingly entered this place at this time. Otherwise, these people here couldn't have brought Chen Feng here at this time. It must be because Chen Feng resolved this matter himself. So he looked at Chen Feng at this time and thought about what they were going through. No matter what they wanted to do at this time, this matter must be resolved first. Lu Shi's strength is the strongest among them, and Chen Feng must be unharmed at this time. I'm not sure about this matter anymore, but no matter what, you resolved this matter at this time, and you helped us at this time. Since you were willing to come here, I think you should also know what's here, but this matter is indeed too dangerous. As he spoke, he glanced at Tu Zhen, unsure of what to say next. But at this point, he had no choice but to look at Chen Feng and explain everything clearly. Chen Feng, hearing this, smiled at Wang Zai. He didn't tell Wang Zai everything at this moment because he still harbored some doubts. If Wang Zai was the one with this system, their current situation would be very dangerous, and he didn't want that to happen. Don't think about these things now, he said. Just stay here. Leave those people to me. I guarantee none of you will be harmed. Since I'm here, I can definitely handle them. He smiled at them as he spoke, feeling somewhat helpless. The customers had arrived and entered this place with him. He couldn't let them suffer any more harm, even though he still suspected Wang Zai might be the same. Although he still harbored some doubts about Wang Zai, since they had already come all this way, why bring it up again and upset them? He felt it was unnecessary. After looking at the group and hesitating for a moment, he spoke to them again. If anyone else comes here, don't worry. I can handle this. No matter their strength, I can find a way to deal with them. Don't attack them. As Chen Feng spoke, he looked at them again. Wang Zai had woken up, so they had brought him there. They knew Wang Zai's strength well. He was stronger than many people, and few here could defeat him, especially those who had come earlier. None of those who tried to take him there could have been weaker than Wang Zai, yet he had been injured. This made Chen Feng think of something. Either it was Wang Zai, the one with the system, who deliberately commented at this moment, suggesting it was likely like this. Of course, Wang Zai was indeed injured, and it's impossible that he was only injured because of what they saw. So there must be other reasons, which is why he thought about it again. However, Chen Feng also knew that it was possible that those people hadn't actually harmed Wang Zai, but that seemed unlikely to Chen Feng, since those people were capable of anything. Chen Feng certainly didn't want his people to get hurt. But he disliked being deceived by someone at this time. If Wang Zai told him those things, and Lu Shi then lied to him, then he wouldn't be polite. So he looked at them again without saying anything more. There were some things he needed to resolve at this moment, so he just looked at them and then headed in another direction. Lu Tai, still somewhat anxious, looked at Chen Feng again. Where are you going at this time? We already discussed your strength, you're the strongest among us. You can't afford to encounter any more danger. So, if anything happens, just tell me, and I'll go check and resolve it for you, Lu Tai said anxiously to Chen Feng. He was genuinely worried that Chen Feng might encounter further danger. He knew that many others were imprisoned here, and only Chen Feng could handle the situation. Don't be anxious. I'm just here to check what's in there. Those people dared to do this, they must have their reasons. Don't be afraid. With me here, you won't be harmed. Chapter 364 Guardian. As he spoke, he glanced around, smiled at him, and confirmed his point. He wouldn't allow anyone here to get hurt again. He had a way to resolve the situation, so there was no need to say anything more. He didn't want anyone here to get hurt, and he wouldn't let such a thing happen. Just then, someone else walked in their direction. Chen Feng immediately looked over and stood in front of Wang Zai. Wang Zai couldn't be allowed to get hurt now. Chen Feng couldn't let Wang Zai get injured. She had already been injured when those people brought her here, but Chen Feng wasn't entirely sure what their purpose was. He stood in front of Wang Zai and glanced at Su Bao. Lu Shi, preoccupied, immediately understood Chen Feng's meaning and came to Chen Feng's side as well. They had seen someone come here, and when they saw them arrive, they were somewhat disdainful, because they all thought that even if Chen Feng had great strength, how powerful could he really be? When this person was brought here, we found it strange that he wasn't the only one, Li Nuo's, not brought here with him. But now we realize that he must have infiltrated here deliberately. His strength is much greater than we thought. What do you think we should do with him? He's one of those people Chen Feng dealt with earlier. They brought these people here now, just to deliberately have them harm Chen Feng. Chen Feng just coldly smiled at that person. He didn't care what these people were planning to do at this time. That person also sensed how disdainful Chen Feng's smile was. He actually found this matter somewhat interesting, and at this moment, he looked at Chen Feng and smiled back. But Chen Feng could see that the smile contained more of a threat. What kind of person am I talking about? Since you have such great strength, why did you infiltrate this place at this time? What is your purpose in coming here? You can always explain this to me clearly now, right? But if you can't explain these things clearly, don't blame us for being impolite. As they spoke, they glanced at Chen Feng, and one of them immediately made a threatening gesture, as if they would attack immediately if Chen Feng did something. Chen Feng, however, was somewhat disdainful, observing their strength, which he considered to be nothing special. He also noticed something else. They all seemed to be cultivating using certain methods, meaning they possessed some strength, but not overwhelmingly powerful, enough to defeat them in a fight. Then, someone else appeared before them. These matters definitely needed to be resolved at this moment, but they weren't entirely clear on the situation. They looked at Chen Feng, pondering their predicament. I showed the person what they were doing, and after they saw it, I spoke to them. What exactly do you want to do here? I hope you didn't just come here to say this. You're probably looking for someone, aren't you? But who are you looking for? Why don't you tell me about these matters, and I'll see if I can help you resolve them. That person told Chen Feng this, but Chen Feng only smiled coldly when he heard it. Only they themselves knew what these people were thinking. He didn't want to believe what they were saying, and just glanced at the person again. He simply smiled at them, regardless of what they were thinking. He wasn't going to let them go now, and they weren't going to let him go either. Chen Feng understood all this, and of course, he didn't need them to let him go at this point. He then looked at Lu Shi and Wang Zai, who were both injured. If the battle started, he would need to think of a way to prevent them from getting hurt. Just then, he glanced in their direction, thinking about the things they were going through. These problems needed to be solved now, but at this point, he wasn't in a huge rush. He simply looked in the direction of those people. Chen Feng was now watching Wang Zai. He himself felt helpless because of these things, but since they had already encountered these situations, he couldn't just let them continue like this. Wang Zai was injured, and those people were already heading this way. Chen Feng knew their purpose perfectly well, they just wanted to take them out of there. As for other things, he wasn't too concerned. He just looked around again, thought for a moment, and then watched them. They would definitely come here eventually. As for what those people wanted to do, he had some understanding. He told them not to worry about these things. He assured them that with him here, they wouldn't suffer any more harm. He told them not to be anxious about this. He glanced around again at this moment. They didn't mention the matter again, but Chen Feng was also thinking about these things. When those people approached again, he did sense a rather powerful individual. But now, Chen Feng just glanced at those people again. The guards he had defeated entered the area at this moment. They looked at Chen Feng, the one they had brought with him. He saw someone looking at him with a disdainful expression. They must have encountered many people from Jiangsu who entered this place before, so he said to Chen Feng, "They say you do have some strength, being able to defeat many people here at this time, but that doesn't mean you're really that powerful. You should know your own strength very well. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels." Chapter 365 Threat. "But now, shouldn't you explain to me why you came to this place?" As he said this, he looked at Chen Feng with obvious anger. Their purpose here was to bring Lu Shi away, but Lu Shi hadn't been taken there yet. He was furious, but hearing those words of regret, he glanced at Lu Shan. "It's nothing, it's just that you brought my friend here. I need to find out what happened. I don't care what else you're trying to do, you need to find out where my friend is." That's what he said, but Lu Shi knew very well that Chen Feng was only trying to help him. The friend he mentioned was his friend. They all knew that Chen Feng hadn't really met many people here. He didn't have any other friends, he just wanted to help him with this. Hearing Chen Feng's words, he felt helpless, but still managed to smile. He glanced at Wang Zai, who was also looking at Chen Feng, still speaking to Lu Shi. "Although Chen Feng is here now, we still need to be careful. We can't say those people won't use other methods at this time. Since they can do this, they're capable of anything. You need to be careful too." He then looked at Lu Shi. Lu Shi smiled back. He understood why he was so anxious, but he couldn't solve the problem right now, so he just smiled. They needed to figure out how to deal with these people. As for that person, he was definitely angry because of what Chen Feng said. He could tell that Chen Feng genuinely looked down on him. He wasn't joking, he was showing disrespect. He looked at Chen Feng. "You were able to defeat all of us guards here, so you must have some strength. However, with such meager strength, to act so arrogantly in front of R02 is something you shouldn't be doing. We don't understand why you came here if you have the strength, but you should know your friend very well." They glanced at Wang Zai, who was also a capable person. He had also entered this place, but was injured after being discovered by them. They then looked at Chen Feng, a smug smile on their faces, wanting to see what Chen Feng would say next. Anyway, this matter could be resolved. No matter what he said, he could handle it. He looked at them as they prepared to head in another direction, but there were still many other things to deal with. Now, all they needed to do was capture Yixin. "Since you're so eager to help your friend, then I won't be polite. I was going to take your people here anyway, so I'll take you all this time. Don't think about anything else now, otherwise, getting injured won't be a simple matter to resolve." As he spoke, he glanced at Chen Feng, smiled, and walked towards him, intending to grab him. However, Chen Feng merely glanced at the man again and immediately dodged. He didn't want to say anything more, just glanced at him once more. The man was surprised that Chen Feng's strength was greater than he had imagined. Chen Feng didn't say anything more and prepared to fight. He knew his purpose, to fight him. He wasn't unfamiliar with this situation and had tried before. Even if it was dangerous, he would find a way to resolve it. He simply glanced at the man again. The group was indeed surprised. They were strong enough to easily capture Chen Feng, but he was stronger than they expected. Even so, they still had a way to defeat him. They moved closer to Chen Feng, smiling smugly. Their smugness stemmed from the fact that capturing someone as powerful as Chen Feng would yield greater benefits. They weren't doing anything for these people. It was merely an exchange. They would give him what he wanted, and he would give them what they desired. Since Chen Feng was already here, he could bring them some advantages. So, they smiled at Chen Feng, intending to capture him immediately. However, Chen Feng's strength was beyond their capabilities. Yixin merely glanced at them. "Since you're so eager to capture us, let me see what kind of strength you possess. Judging from your words, it seems I'm destined to be captured. I'd like to see what kind of strength you have to dare to say such things." He glanced at them again, seeing nothing worthwhile. Since they had brought it up, he saw no need for politeness, he simply wanted to capture them. He merely glanced at them once more. He didn't need to say anything more to them at this moment. Since they had already encountered these problems, they could figure out a solution later. As for other matters, he didn't need to think about them at this time, nor did he want to. He just looked at them again. Suddenly, those people rushed towards Chen Feng, but Chen Feng stood in front of Lu Lin and the others first. If they took advantage of his fight with these people to capture Lu Shi and Wang Zai to threaten him, he really wouldn't be able to handle the situation. So, at least for now, Lu Shi and Wang Zai couldn't be injured. Chapter 366 Punishment. It was impossible for them to be captured by these people, especially Li Juan. He didn't really want to come to this place in the first place. If it weren't for the help he received at this moment, he would have just taken another look at these people. Of course, those people were still somewhat surprised after being defeated by Chen Feng. It was the person who had just rushed towards Chen Feng. They thought they could defeat him at this moment, but they didn't expect that he would just resolve the matter directly when he was about to get close to Chen Feng. It was only at this moment that they realized that Chen Feng's strength was much greater than they had thought. Is there anything else you want to do? Why don't you try it now? I want to see what else you can do. I'm not sure what you're thinking, but things have come to this point. If you do anything more, I really can't be polite anymore. I want to see the person who did all this. He said this, glancing at them as he stated his purpose directly. He needed to resolve this matter now, regardless of the circumstances. He looked at them and considered their current situation. He figured that since things had already come to this, they should think of a solution. As for how those people were thinking, he just needed to think of a solution. He glanced at them again, pondering their predicament. Although he didn't know their intentions, since they were already in this situation, they could still find a way to resolve it. Is there anything else you want to say at this point? If so, then clarify everything now. Since things have come to this, you're unlikely to let us go now. You might as well just tell us your true purpose, Chen Feng said, looking at the group. He really wanted to figure out their motives. He couldn't let them realize he possessed a system, which was why he needed to act this way. He couldn't directly say he understood their purpose, nor could he let them discover it. But he clearly understood that they had captured these people to use for cultivation. Therefore, he needed to find a way to resolve this situation, so he looked around. He considered the current situation. Whatever he thought of, he needed to find a solution. He simply looked at the group again. The group smiled coldly at him. None of them were going to fight Chen Feng at this moment. Your strength is indeed quite strong, and you defeated these people at this time. You can be said to be one of the stronger ones among those who entered here. But we haven't even fought you yet. Why do you think we need to tell you these things at this time? Who do you think you are? He looked at them again as he said this, and just smiled at them, not really caring about the matter. Since they had already encountered these things, they could only think of a way to solve them. He looked in their direction and thought about the situation they were facing. Since they had already thought about these things, they could still find a way to solve them at this time. He just looked at them and thought about the situation they were facing. In any case, since they had already come here, they could solve these things at this time. He also looked at them and thought about the situation they were facing. In any case, they had to do something at this time. In any case, these people would definitely fight him, so Chen Feng had to prepare. He couldn't let Wang Zai and Lu Shi get injured again. He didn't want Wang Zai and Lu Shi to get hurt at this time, and it was something he didn't want to do now. He glanced in that direction, determined to find a way to resolve the situation and prevent his people from getting hurt. He glanced in that direction again. The group attacked Chen Feng again, but Chen Feng felt that things had come to this point, and he didn't need to tolerate them any longer. Since they were attacking him now, and Chen Feng understood their intentions, there was no need for him to be polite. He looked at Lu Shi, considered for a moment, and decided that Lu Shi and Wang Zai should hide first. Otherwise, they might get hurt again because of this, and he also wanted to prevent Wang Zai from lying to him. Chen Feng didn't want to take Wang Zai away now, but Lu Shi was involved in his mission, and he didn't want him to be in danger. Lu Shi, you and Wang Zai hide right now. Don't let them get close to Wang Zai. I don't want either of you to be harmed. These people are capable of anything. I have to fight them. I can't fight them for you right now. He glanced at Lu Shi, thinking he understood, but there were still things he needed to say. He moved closer to Lu Shi, pulling him closer to make sure he could hear him. while Wang Zai couldn't. Lu Shi found it strange that Chen Feng couldn't tell them directly now, but Chen Feng was looking at Su Li. He figured Lu Shi must have his reasons for doing this, and he listened as Lu Shi spoke. Also, you need to be careful of Wang Zai at this time. We don't know if he's been controlled by those people again. We're not sure if what he's saying is based on his own knowledge or if there's some truth to it. He glanced at Lu Shi, who, upon hearing this, simply looked at Chen Feng, indicating he understood. Then he went in another direction. He reasoned that he was going to fight them anyway. He said, if you can find someone to defeat me now, then I'll go with you to see the person who made you do these things. Otherwise, I think no matter what you say, your people will be punished at this time. Chapter 367 The Might of the Fist God. 10 Zhang away, all was shrouded in darkness. The sky darkened, and the shadows looming over the arena resembled a gigantic, man-eating monster. Having finished arranging everything, Yi Chen moved swiftly, appearing before the main seat in an instant without taking a single step. He sat down elegantly, without any pressure or dramatic entrance. Yi Chen simply and calmly descended upon the main seat. The crowd's lifeless eyes widened in disbelief, staring at him in disbelief. Their expressions shifted from surprise to something more complex, their lips moving as they uttered sounds of astonishment and disbelief. They had been focused on the stage, yet hadn't even seen how he appeared. Their minds seemed to freeze for a moment, and when they realized what had happened, the fist god was already seated. As if sensing something, the fist god glanced at them briefly, then ignored them. After all, the difference in strength was too great. Yi Chen raised his other hand, signaling everyone to be quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, the New World Tournament begins. First, regarding the establishment of a new order after the destruction of the 5 elders of the world, Yi Chen spoke loudly, his voice reaching everyone's ears. His voice was clear and penetrating even in the sea of people around him, and the content of his words was so shocking that many around him instinctively listened, their expressions changing drastically, eliciting gasps of astonishment. This caused even more people to hear the gasps, and upon hearing Yi Chen's announcement, they were all stunned, their expressions incredulous. Soon, everyone present clearly heard Yi Chen's words, I will unite all the countries of the world to establish a new type of international organization for peaceful coexistence, abbreviated as G-Kingdom. Yi Chen's direct opening immediately stunned the assembled kings, as if someone had punched them hard in the head, leaving them speechless for a long time. They stared blankly at Yi Chen on the stage, their gazes not focused on him, their breath catching in their throats, unable to recover for a long while. What is G-Kingdom? The name of this new order organization, G-Kingdom, was even more perplexing. Faced with such big news, many kings were stunned, bewildered, and their minds were in turmoil. They struggled to contain their conflicted emotions, their hearts a jumbled mess, their fingers almost tearing their clothes to shreds. Some disgruntled kings opened their mouths, then closed them again, their faces still showing signs of panic, seemingly unsure of where to begin. However, at least it sounded more imposing than the title world government. Just then, an elderly man stood up, raised his hand, and said, Lord Fist God, I would like to ask, what kind of organization is the G-Kingdom? Does your G-Kingdom intend to annex more than 100 countries? What kind of country? Yi Chen remained calm and composed, pondered for a moment, then shook his head before speaking. The G-Kingdom will not annex you. It is a country that resolves disputes through communication based on the principle of peace. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the assembled kings, his sharp eyes and voice like a sword, causing the kings' faces to change. They all looked sullen, but dared not say anything more. Yi Chen looked up at the elderly man who had asked the question, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. As he spoke calmly, a sense of authority was subtly revealed in his words. Most of the kings of these countries were human, but there were also demi-humans, long-armed races, long-legged races, merfolk, giants, and so on. The various races of the world live on the same planet. You, like humans, possess the same language and the same wisdom, and should therefore coexist peacefully. No one is superior to another, all people are born equal. The sky is the same for everyone. There are no inherently lowly races in this world, only lowly hearts see lowly things. People are born equal. Countless people were stunned by these words and such a simple theory, as if they had suddenly seen lightning. Especially those from small, oppressed nations, who looked up at Yi Chen, their eyes flashing with an excitement and understanding that others couldn't comprehend. Not only the kings of some weaker nations, but even the other guests were shocked. The entire hall was silent, everyone was stunned. Was this something a pirate should say? He wasn't as ruthless as they thought. After fighting the 5 elders, he had reached the final stage of exploiting them. Yi Chen's statement was unprecedented. In the era when the world was still ruled by the 5 elders, the celestial dragons were supreme. Of course, there was no such thing as equality. All beings are equal, Yi Chen spoke expressionlessly. He didn't use any special abilities to make his words more impactful. He simply stated calmly, for everyone, the sky is the same sky. Whether you are a man, a woman, a child, an old person, a mermaid, a fish man, a strong person, or a weak person, everyone is equal. From the moment you are born into this world, you possess inviolable equal rights. And the G Kingdom is a nation that upholds the equality of all races in the world, a nation where dialogue is possible on an equal footing. In the G Kingdom, every one of you is equal. You have independent personalities and free wills. Mortals are equal to one another, and no one should be used as a tool. The most immoral thing in the world is using others as tools to achieve one's own ends. After a pause, Yi Chen added, therefore, any individual, group, force, or nation that attempts to undermine this realm is an enemy of all members of the G Kingdom. Of course, this was just talk. Yi Chen didn't have the energy to concern himself with human rights in this world. He said this simply to give these kings an explanation. All living beings in this world, regardless of size, appearance, or character, have the right to exist and each has their own function. They all deserve respect. After the establishment of my G Kingdom, all of your more than 100 countries will become vassal states of G Kingdom. Whether you agree or not, G Kingdom must be established, and you will be forced to join. As soon as he finished speaking, Neptune's face suddenly flushed red, and his breathing became noticeably faster than before. Heaven knows how happy he was when he heard Yi Chen's news. A surge of joy coursed through his entire body, and he was truly overjoyed. Every wrinkle on his face radiated happiness. Without further hesitation, he stood up from his seat. He first glanced at Queen Odaheim and Princess Shirahoshi beside him, then took a deep breath and said loudly, Your Excellency, the Fishman Kingdom of Fishman Island is willing to join G Kingdom and uphold the principle of equality of all beings. Upon hearing this, Yi Chen raised an eyebrow and couldn't help but look at him, somewhat surprised. He was suddenly stunned. The feeling was strange. It was both expected and completely unexpected, yet, while unexpected, it also made sense to some extent. This wasn't a plan he had arranged beforehand. Neptune had stood up willingly on his own. However, thinking about it, it made sense. The Mermaid Kingdom was a country that suffered greatly from persecution and discrimination. Compared to other countries, they should be the ones who most wanted equality for all. Princess Shirahoshi, on the other hand, looked nervous. Her fair face was flushed red, and her bright almond-shaped eyes were wide open, making her look incredibly adorable. Those eyes were large, shining with 2 beams of trust, staring at Yi Chen without blinking. Yi Chen smiled faintly at this, his eyes dazzled by Princess Boasting's childlike expression. He usually only saw this kind of expression on children's faces. He said, It's been a long time, Princess Boasting, 10 years have passed. The Boasting of yesteryear has grown up, now a full 20 meters tall. Hearing Yi Chen's words, she nodded repeatedly, clearly trusting him completely. The sudden flash of white light before her eyes and the blankness in her mind remained vivid and unforgettable, even after many years. King Neptune, I know there are many examples of mermaid trafficking among humans. It's only natural that you're so eager to join, Yi Chen said loudly. Of course, after the establishment of my G Kingdom, the sale of mermaids will not be allowed. Then, he addressed the other kings, whether you want to join the G Kingdom or not, it will be established. Today is merely a notification that those who join will receive a series of protections, while those who do not will face severe consequences. Yi Chen finished his warning to the kings in a calm tone, then silently watched them, awaiting their response. The kings looked at him in disbelief. Although they had a bad feeling beforehand, they never expected the God of Fists to threaten them like this. We join. Some of them wore expressions of sorrow and resentment, mixed with an unspeakable unease, unwillingness, and reluctance. Their lips parted, but no words came out. They glanced at the God of Fists, their eyes seemingly filled with sorrow and resentment. Alabasta is willing to join the G Kingdom. Dressrosa, willing to join. One followed another, and immediately, A group of kings agreed in fear. Of course, some faces showed sorrow and fear, hatred and pain, but the haughty demeanor and deep, complex sorrow were gone. However, a few looked grim. The moment someone agreed to become a vassal state, their eyes turned cold, their faces alternating between pale and extremely ugly. They immediately began to object, speaking in a loud, incoherent, high-pitched, incessant cacophony. Fist God Yi Chen, you just said that all beings are equal, but now you're forcing everyone to join, oppressing us. The feeling of going against our will is not pleasant. Your actions are full of cruelty and violence, oppression and exploitation. Even with many reasons, it's still unequal. What kind of logic is this? Didn't you emphasize equality? We should have the freedom to decide, a large-faced, hoarse-voiced man shouted, his neck stiff, eyes wide, spittle flying as he argued with Yi Chen. The roar of the crowd shook the entire hall. Chapter 368 Brand. Hearing this, Yi Chen chuckled. I said, are you misunderstanding? I did say before that everyone is equal, specifically referring to humans. I, the god, am not on that category. If you insist, I am a god. Do you understand? You all call me the god of fist, but have you ever seen a god abide by human agreements? Hearing this, the big-faced man was stunned, his expression darkening as he coldly stared at Ji Yan, his grip tightening. This was blatant tyranny. His previous inflammatory words were indeed false. HMPH. You are the strong, we are the weak, your words are the truth. The man snorted and sat down again, his momentum waning. The surrounding chatter immediately ceased, and for a moment, all eyes were on Yi Chen. Yi Chen ignored the mockery. He stretched and yawned, deciding that no matter how dissatisfied those people were, they were still useless to him, like air, and nobody paid them any attention. Even with absolute strength, they had to swallow their pride. Then, Yi Chen's gaze became meaningful, a slight smile playing on his lips, his eyes revealing a peculiar amusement. He continued, the 195 nations present here will all become founding members of the Ji Kingdom. Congratulations on taking such a crucial step on the path of equality, he chuckled, his sharp gaze sweeping over the faces of the assembled members, and declared loudly, the Ji Kingdom will establish 20 council members. Above these council members will be 5 permanent members, each appointed individually, possessing the power to make decisions on daily affairs. 5 permanent council members? Or individuals? Isn't this just a replica of the 5 elders? Amidst the knowing silence, those lost in their surging memories felt a disturbance, forcing them to snap out of their reverie. Above the 5 permanent council members was the Soul God. The Soul God? The Fist God himself? Many eyes narrowed slightly, some immediately wanting to express their dissatisfaction, but the next second, their expressions changed drastically. Everyone gasped, speechless for a long time, when the handsome Fist God stepped forward, smiling as he ascended the platform, gesturing to the crowd. And I, as the sole god of the Ji Kingdom, if anyone dares to provoke the Ji Kingdom, I will make you regret it. With that, Yi Chen, without warning, swung his hand, unleashing a divine power aimed at everyone present. Instantly, almost everyone present was thrown from their seats, forced to exert every ounce of strength to resist the oppressive force. They felt the power of the Fist God pressing down on them like an inescapable mountain, their hands straining to the limit, their knuckles turning a bluish-gray, their teeth clenched in fury. Fist God, from the pirate's side, one man, desperately resisting the oppressive force, murmured in shock, his Fist God power is even greater than before. At the same time, a figure slowly emerged from the high platform. Whitebird smiled, turned to look at Yi Chen, and said respectfully, Fist God, you might not be able to suppress such a large number of people at once. Would you like me to help you? Yi Chen remained calm, saying indifferently, it's all right. My power can easily suppress all the pirates here. It should be noted that the current Fist God is far stronger than the one from 10 years ago. Yes, I understand. In the next instant, the oppressive aura of the Fist God that had enveloped the entire S.H.I.E.L.D archipelago spread out rapidly at 10 or even 100 times the speed. The speed was so fast that everyone was caught off guard. It seemed as if the oppressive aura would cover the entire S.H.I.E.L.D archipelago in one fell swoop. Many pirates who hadn't yet entered were directly suppressed and collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. The more than 6,000 people at the open-air New World Tournament struggled to their feet, staring blankly at this scene. Older people might clearly remember that 10 years ago, the Fist God had also used this suppression technique. And today, This scene seemed to be repeating itself. It was their deep-seated fear, finally resurfacing in forgotten times. What immense energy this was! Over here, Beast King Ryan stared wide-eyed, his expression filled with disbelief. If this level of energy were to be unleashed upon him all at once, he was almost certain that he would be pulverized in an instant. His own type healing and regenerative abilities were completely unable to keep up with this destructive speed. Meanwhile, behind him, in a corner of the pirate seating area, Heavenly Ivio also stared wide-eyed, an indescribable emotion engulfing him. He held his breath. His left eye was a mechanical eye, and at that moment, it displayed a series of numerical values. Previously, he had visited the vice captain of the Beast King Pirates and, through the latter's modification abilities, had mechanically modified his Heavenly Eye fruit. One of the abilities gained from this modification was the ability to display the target's strength numerically. Impossible, this is impossible. The Fist God's level is invisible. Vio was utterly shocked. This result horrified him. He looked up at the Fist God, but the opponent's level was completely unreadable. It was just a blank. The result was small, but its impact on him was like a thunderbolt. Vio even suspected there was something wrong with his devil fruit ability. Unconvinced, he immediately focused his gaze on a pirate in the crowd with a bounty of 500 million. The mechanical eye gave him a value of 1080 degrees. No problem, am I seeing things? He took a deep breath, suppressing his unease, frowned in confusion, and opened his lips, but remained silent. He glanced at the stage, where the gaze seemed to hold a hint of doubt, then turned his attention back to Fleet Admiral Akainu on the Navy's side. Akainu's level is 3,800. The Four Emperors' level is 5,300. No problem, both are normal values, he concluded in his mind. The mechanical eye was the result of a modification to the Heavenly Eye fruit's ability, performing a comprehensive analysis of the target and deriving a numerical level. The original Heavenly Eye didn't have numerical capabilities, it was acquired after the modification. Normally, pirates with bounties over 100 million are ranked between 100 and 500, pirates with bounties over 500 million are ranked between 1,000 and 2,000, admirals are ranked between 3,000 and 4,000, and Yonko are generally ranked above 5,000. However, the rank number displayed by Yu Chen is extraordinary. Why is it blank? This is the first time Vio has seen an unknown rank number. Before this, the highest was Whitebird's 6,800. How is this possible? Even if he is the god of fists, an unknown number. This is too strong. What is going on? Is there something wrong with my eyes? Vio swallowed hard, feeling extremely uneasy. This nervous action revealed his anxious and uneasy mood. An indescribable expression appeared on his face, with surprise, confusion, and a trace of unfathomable fear. He suddenly withdrew his gaze and turned to look at the person next to Yi Chen on a high platform. Doflamingo. That's right, he could easily see everyone else's data, but he couldn't see any of Yi Chen's. This shows that when even the mechanical eye couldn't measure it, Vio would only see a blank screen. Vio turned his head, wanting to look at Yi Chen again, when suddenly, his left eye hurt, and blood immediately spilled from his eyeball. 740, he cried out in pain, his whole body contorting in agony. He screamed in agony, the whimper turning into a pitiful wail, tears streaming down his face. For some reason, at that moment, Vio's heart suddenly sank heavily, an indescribable emotion rising from the depths of his soul. He lowered his head in terror, no longer daring to look at the fist god. Yi Chen was strong, every move he made possessed extraordinary power, everyone knew that. But when the Heavenly Eye couldn't see the specific numbers, Vio's heart was filled with various indescribable feelings. The most profound feeling was shock. The Four Emperors were utterly insignificant before such terrifying power. Even the power of a devil fruit couldn't fully gauge the opponent's strength. While he was probing the fist god's strength, the fist god seemed to sense something, glancing at him before ignoring him. At this moment, the fist god's power continued to spread rapidly, expanding tenfold, 100-fold, covering the entire island in just a few minutes. The scene of suppression from the past is being reenacted today. At this moment, everyone in the Sabaody archipelago is suffering terribly under the oppressive power of the fist god. Those inside the arena are especially tormented by the oppressive force of this fist god, their lives a living hell. Those who had just eaten the exquisite food before the tournament vomited repeatedly after the excruciating pain, only stopping when they were vomiting up yellow gastric fluid. Fist god. I'm willing to join the G Kingdom, finally, Some were forced to submit. They resented this helplessness, this futile struggle of knowing it was impossible to resist yet being unable to submit. It was the most devastating thing. Regardless, deep within their hearts, the image of the Fist God was deeply imprinted. The sole Fist God of the G Kingdom, the Supreme Being, is not only the supreme ruler, the pinnacle of power and wealth in the world, but also a symbol of world peace. From this day forward, the world submits, whether on the Grand Line or anywhere else. It is the Fist Gods. Seeing this, Chen finally waved his hand to stop the oppressive force. His heart swelled with unparalleled satisfaction and indescribable joy as he looked down at the distant horizon. No one could defy him anymore, no one could take it away from him, everything in this world was his. In an instant, countless people knelt down, worshipping the Fist God. The scene was magnificent, the sound shaking the 9 cities, and the entire Sabaody archipelago trembled with the sound, their blood surging. Chen was worshipped by those around him, exuding an aura of absolute dominance, as if the world revolved around him. Did he succeed? Someone murmured. After this suppression, the power of the divine suppression has subdued all races, ending the great pirate era. Did he succeed? Of course not. Chapter 369 Direction. As he spoke, he glanced at them again, smiled, and then spoke his mind. Those who heard this looked at Chen Feng with suspicion. They hadn't expected him to speak to them at this time, but it was precisely Chen Feng's words that made them hesitate. They felt that since Chen Feng dared to say these things, it meant he wasn't afraid of them at all, and his strength might be far greater than they thought. That's why they hesitated. It was something they weren't sure about. They could only look at Chen Feng again, pondering what he had said. They had been trying to figure out how to resolve this situation, and since Chen Feng had spoken to them about this, they would think of a solution no matter what happened next. They looked at them again, considering their current predicament. Although he wasn't sure what else might be going on, since they were already here, he figured he could deal with it later. That's why he looked at Yushin. They weren't sure of Chen Feng's strength. If he was stronger than they thought, provoking him now would be dangerous enough. So, they hesitated for a moment. Do you still want to fight me? If you do, come out now. We can move around here. I don't really care. As long as you're sure you can defeat me, you can come and fight me now, Chen Feng said, looking at them. Although he wasn't sure of their purpose, their presence here, intended to take them there, meant someone had discovered his strength. It was probably the person he had just defeated who had told them. Ru Chun also thought about other things after this. Anyway, these people wouldn't let them go at this time. Instead of trying to figure out a way to do it himself, he decided to force them to release him now. Thinking this, Chen Feng looked at the group and suddenly smiled at them. The man was already somewhat frightened. Don't think that just because you're stronger than us, you can threaten us into letting you go. Although we might not be able to beat you right now, let me tell you, there's a formation around here. If you dare to provoke us, someone will definitely deal with you. He said this to Chen Feng. However, upon hearing this, Chen Feng suddenly smiled again. He hadn't expected this person to tell him about the formation so directly. No one had been willing to tell him this before. Now that he'd figured out there was a formation here, how could he possibly fight them himself? He needed to think of other ways, find other people to solve these problems. Just then, he glanced at the group and smiled at them. The guards grew increasingly frightened by Chen Feng's smile, unsure why he was smiling, whether he was certain he could defeat him. They were even less certain of Chen Feng's true strength. He just kept looking at them, trying to figure out what they were thinking. Although he wasn't sure what Chen Feng was thinking, since they were already in this direction, they could think of a solution and resolve these issues. He wanted to see what they were going through. Although they were surprised by what they were doing, now that they were in this direction and understood the situation, they decided to think things through. Chen Feng looked at the group again. Although he wasn't sure of their purpose, from what they said, it seemed there was a formation around them. This was what he wanted to figure out right now. Since they said there was a formation around, Chen Feng believed them. But what exactly was the formation for? He needed to confirm that, so he looked around. It seems I should thank you for telling me about the formation. If you hadn't told me, I might have attacked you right now, and I might have been attacked myself. So, anyway, thank you for telling me about the formation. Chen Feng smiled at them as he said this, and then he saw their expressions change immediately. They seemed quite angry about what they had told him. But Chen Feng found this even more interesting. Their anger was definitely because they had discovered that they had told him these things. Chen Feng then simply looked at them and smiled. He wasn't sure what they were thinking, but he was happy and moved closer to them. Lu Shi also looked at Chen Feng, not understanding what the formation they were talking about was. He simply moved Wang Zai a little further away from them at this moment, to prevent Wang Zai from getting hurt in their battle. This was what Chen Feng had told him, and judging from the tone of Chen Feng's voice, he seemed confident that he could defeat these people, although he didn't know why. But since Chen Feng said that at this time, he must have his reasons. Now, seeing Chen Feng approaching those people, and their fearful expressions, he found it somewhat amusing. Wang Zai was watching the process. Unlike Lu Tai, who wasn't as strong as him, Wang Zai, despite his injuries, was still stronger than Lu Shi. So now he could feel the powerful aura emanating from Chen Feng, which frightened those people. But he also found it strange that Chen Feng had never shown himself to be a strong person before. Now he realized that Chen Feng was unwilling to tell them this. Chen Feng's strength was actually much greater than they thought, which was why he had always felt that Chen Feng hadn't told them something. It turned out that Chen Feng had now become such a powerful person. At this moment, he looked in Chen Feng's direction. Chen Feng told you to rest for a while earlier. Actually, Wang Zai, you're injured right now, so there's no need for you to fight Yishen and the others. You should trust Chen Feng's strength. He'll definitely be able to defeat these people. Chapter 370 Possessing a System? At this moment, Lu Shi looked at Wang Zai and told him everything. He could tell that Wang Zai seemed to want to tell him something. Wang Zai smiled at him, though he wasn't entirely sure about some things. Wang Zai was indeed anxious. Chen Feng was fighting those people, and he was very likely to get injured. That's why he was worried. But then he thought about what Lu Shi had said. Someone like Chen Feng should know many things clearly. Chen Feng should know what he was doing, and there was no need for him to worry about him. However, he still felt that fighting those people was too dangerous for Chen Feng. Looking at Lu Shi, he hesitated. With Chen Feng's current strength, it was impossible for him to fight those people. He originally wanted Lu Shi to fight alongside them and help Chen Feng at this time. Lu Tai was staying here because Yishen had told him to watch over him and prevent him from getting hurt. Of course, Wang Zai didn't realize that Chen Feng suspected Lu Shi might harm them at this moment. But now that they were here, they still had many things to resolve, especially Chen Feng. Fighting these people was already very dangerous, and they were already fighting. If Lu Shi didn't help Chen Feng, Yishen would also be in real danger. Even if Lu Tai's strength couldn't provide much help to Chen Feng, as long as he was willing to go, he could still prevent some people from ambushing Chen Feng. He looked at Lu Shi at this moment, thinking about these things, and just as he was about to say something to him, Lu Shi spoke to him. Is there anything else you want to say now? If so, just say it now. We can talk about anything else later. Anyway, we've already encountered these problems, and we can figure out other solutions. Chen Feng just asked me to stay here and watch over you. Lu Shi said this to him at this moment, and Lu Shi seemed really helpless about this matter. He wasn't sure if he should go over, because Wang Zai knew that Chen Feng had asked him to do this at this time, and he was confident that Chen Feng wouldn't listen to him. He was a little helpless, but since they had already come this far, there was no need to argue about this matter. He just watched them and thought about what they were going through. Reality smiled at him at this moment, and there was no need to say anything more. He would just see if Chen Feng could fight those people. If Chen Feng couldn't beat them in the fight, he would help him then. In short, he didn't want Chen Feng to fight those people alone at this moment. At this moment, he looked at Lu Shi again, and he really wanted to trust Chen Feng. Lu Tai was genuinely willing to listen to Chen Feng and stay here, even though he was already quite anxious. Wang Zai, however, felt somewhat helpless. Chen Feng had so many guards here, yet he was forced to fight them all. Of course, Chen Feng didn't think those people were a threat to him at this moment, but he had to defeat them to avoid endangering his men. He felt helpless, but it was the only way. Whatever these people wanted to do, Chen Feng wouldn't let them. He glanced in their direction again, and suddenly someone approached. Chen Feng was startled, then looked over and saw a powerful person approaching. It seems someone has indeed come here at this time, and has already encountered these things. You must have appeared at this time as well, so all these things are your doing. Whether it's dealing with those who were attacked or the events that have occurred, he then looked at them, unsure of their thoughts, but since they were already there, Chen Feng was fairly certain this person was the one who had done all this back in 163. He looked at them again, pondering the situation, and suddenly smiled at them. Thinking of something else, he moved closer to the person, who looked at Chen Feng and then back at him. This person was likely the other person he suspected possessed the system. Chen Feng wasn't entirely sure, but he could roughly understand that this person couldn't have done these things without a system. He wasn't sure if this person had realized his identity, if he was the one with the system. He simply looked at him again, smiled, and then moved closer. The man didn't seem afraid at all. Instead, he just smiled at Chen Feng. He had heard from his subordinates that a powerful person had suddenly appeared, so he looked at Chen Feng. Is there something you want to say, or something you want to know? For example, why I did these things, why I came here to stop you, why I'm ruining your plans. Chen Feng smiled at them, though they weren't sure what he was thinking. They suspected he wanted to know. The man looked at him again and moved closer. He wasn't sure who Chen Feng was. When he saw Chen Feng, he realized this man was much stronger than them. Of course, this man didn't suspect that Chen Feng possessed a system, or perhaps his system hadn't told him yet. Others here also had systems, but Chen Feng's system had told him first. You must have your own purpose in coming here to do these things. You couldn't have done this without a reason at this time. So, why don't you tell me why you came here? At least tell me this now. I glanced at that person. Although I wasn't sure what he was thinking, since we've already encountered these things, we can figure out a solution later. Chapter 371 Anger. So he moved closer to them, pondering how to resolve the situation. This person seemed unaware that he was the other person with the system, so Chen Feng moved even closer, seeing that he seemed genuinely unaware of the strangeness of the situation. This further confirmed his suspicions, and he learned some things at this moment. The other person also found it strange. He had indeed brought the system here, but he didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing. He just wanted to get what he wanted at this time. As long as he could cultivate here, he could do whatever he wanted. So now he looked at Chen Feng again, wondering about Chen Feng's current strength. He was puzzled by Chen Feng's ability to defeat him, and his actions seemed odd. He looked closer to him. Could you please tell me why you're doing these things? These people haven't done anything to harm you, so why are you controlling them? Or do you have some other purpose in doing this? Tell me now. When the man heard this, his expression turned serious. He hadn't expected Chen Feng to dare speak to him like this after all he'd done. He moved closer, his expression genuinely serious, but then he looked at Chen Feng's words. You've come here to ruin my plans, and I've already been lenient by not harming you. And you dare to say these things to me now? Aren't you afraid I'll just kill you in my anger? Tell me what you want to do. He stared at Chen Feng, genuinely trying to figure out what this man was up to. Now that he'd landed here, he dared to utter these threatening words. Chen Feng found Chen Feng rather strange. Chen Feng glanced at him back. He didn't care what the man was thinking. After all, his actions weren't meant to please him. If they were, why would he have done it? So he simply looked at him again and moved closer, sensing that the man felt threatened. He seemed afraid, but Chen Feng also found it strange that he didn't seem to doubt Chen Feng's possession of the system. He needed to consult with system to understand the situation and then figure out a solution. He glanced at Chen Feng at this moment. Chen Feng didn't think this person was particularly strong, but Lu Tai and the others thought otherwise. Wang Zai didn't say anything, but Lu Shi sensed the person's strength was considerable. He even felt a sense of fear upon seeing him. It was precisely because of this that he realized the person's power. He looked at Chen Feng, contemplating the situation, and decided to find a solution. He then moved closer to Wang Zai. Don't be afraid. I won't let him do anything to hurt you. I can handle this situation. Chen Feng already told me I won't let him hurt you. If he tries to harm you, you should go over there first. Perhaps upon hearing this, he looked at him with a hint of helplessness, then smiled at him again. Although unsure of his thoughts, he decided to explain everything. He glanced at him, then gestured for him to move closer. He knew very well that Chen Feng was going to fight this person. Judging from their current state and Chen Feng's words, Chen Feng had no intention of discussing the matter. He simply wanted to eliminate him. He could see that Chen Feng was also furious about what this person had done. Since that was the case, given Chen Feng's character, he wouldn't let this person go at this point. He glanced at Chen Feng again, already pondering how to resolve the situation, but then looked again, deciding to say something else. Just as he was about to approach Chen Feng looked at him again. He understood Chen Feng's meaning perfectly well. His area was dangerous, and Chen Feng didn't want them to get close. He couldn't go there now, so he looked at Chen Feng again. Don't be anxious right now. I think that guy who suddenly appeared here is actually a little afraid of Chen Feng. Judging from his expression, he's probably not sure if he can really defeat him right now. So don't worry about these things, he can't possibly beat Chen Feng right now. Wang Zai is stronger than them at this moment, so he can see that the guy who suddenly appeared is afraid of Chen Feng. It's probably because he's not strong enough to beat him right now, which is why he's hesitating. Chen Feng smiled at that guy again. From what he said to him, he had already figured it out. These are the things he's noticed now. This guy doesn't like to talk to them much at this time. If these people make him feel threatened anywhere, he'll deal with them directly right now. The reason he's hesitating here is simply because he's not sure if he can really defeat him right now. Thinking of this, Chen Feng just smiled again. Why should he hesitate over this matter at this moment? He glanced at the man again at this moment, unsure of what he was thinking. But now that he had said all that, he just needed to think about what to do next. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Cultivator. What exactly do you want to do at this time? I've already told you. As long as you explain things clearly to me now, I can let you out. But since we've already encountered these things, and you've already injured my guard, shouldn't you tell me about this? He said this to Chen Feng at this moment. However, Chen Feng thought about it. He did seem quite scared, but Chen Feng wasn't sure of his strength. After all, he was a cultivator, and Chen Feng wouldn't do anything until he was certain he could defeat him. So he looked at the man again and suddenly smiled at him. The man was somewhat wary, looking at the tattoo. He wasn't sure what Chen Feng was thinking, but judging from his current appearance, he was probably thinking about how to deal with it. He looked at Chen Feng at this moment. He was actually hesitant because of this matter and wanted to understand why he was doing these things at this time. However, Chen Feng just looked at him again and moved closer to him. After hesitating for a moment, Chen Feng spoke to him directly. Why should I tell you what I'm going to do now? It's true I disrupted your plans, but that's something you did yourself. Why should I be polite now? You should think about how to resolve this. Your guards are watching you closely. Chen Feng smiled at him, wanting to understand how this person planned to handle the situation. He had indeed hurt many people, a fact Chen Feng was well aware of. He could tell from these people that he never intended to, and from his expression, Chen Feng could tell he wanted to use his power to cultivate. Chen Feng understood this, but whether he could do it remained to be seen. He looked at the man and smiled. It was clear the man was afraid and didn't want Chen Feng to get close. Chen Feng, also considering how to resolve the situation, moved closer. Judging from the man's expression, he was indeed frightened. But it was precisely because of this that Chen Feng felt something was strange. He had initially thought the system must have told everyone, especially those with a 910 system, that another person with a system was waiting here. However, it seemed this person was completely unaware of this, though Chen Feng was certain he possessed a system. Looking at these people, and at the one who had suddenly appeared, the one with the other system, Chen Feng realized this now, but judging from his demeanor, he didn't seem to understand he possessed a system. It was possible he simply thought Chen Feng was a powerful person. So Chen Feng looked at him again. He hadn't directly stated that this person was cultivating, so he was unaware of this. He then looked at Chen Feng and the others with systems, always thinking they were the most powerful. So, looking at Chen Feng, he continued, I don't know who you are or why you're here, but since you're here, there are some things I need to clarify. If you explain, I will definitely not harm you at this time. I promise I will keep my word. As he spoke, he glanced at Chen Feng. He had already told Chen Feng about this, but Chen Feng hadn't listened. He knew exactly what this person wanted to do and wanted to understand his true strength. So Chen Feng simply smiled at him again. He had more to do than just this, there were many other things. However, Chen Feng needed to let this person go first. He needed to discuss some things with the system and couldn't let this person stay here. Just then, he looked at the person again and suddenly smiled at him. I still have some things I need to understand at this time, and I also need to discuss with my companions whether they are willing to listen to you. Could you take your men back first? But if you don't want to fight me directly, I'm still willing, Chen Feng said, glancing at the man and smiling at him. The man hesitated upon hearing Chen Feng's words. He wasn't sure of Chen Feng's strength. If he was indeed stronger than he thought, fighting Chen Feng now would be very dangerous. He didn't want to take the risk at this moment. He looked at Chen Feng again, then at his guards. From their expressions, he could tell that they were unwilling to fight Chen Feng at this time. Their unwillingness to fight Chen Feng meant that Chen Feng's strength was probably greater than theirs. Since that's the case, he shouldn't have any conflict with Chen Feng before he can figure out Chen Feng's true strength. He glanced at his men again and decided to do as Chen Feng said. He then spoke to Chen Feng's men, since you've said that, I can let you explain to them now whether you want to come to our side or not, or whether you really want to fight us. It's up to you how you decide. I'll take them and wait, then come back to find you. He glanced at Chen Feng and then walked in another direction. Chen Feng just looked in the direction the man had gone, smiled, and thought he did indeed look like a cultivator, and his action seemed quite impressive. However, using others for cultivation was something he really disliked. He glanced at him again, deciding not to bring up the matter again, and just watch the man for now. After he had led his men out, he then approached Lu Shi and Wang Zai, first looking at Wang Zai. Chapter 373 Owner. Wang Zai was indeed injured. They had used him for training, and it seems they took some of his power with them. Those brought here were ordinary people, not ninjas, so none possessed the immense power Wang Zai had. It seems you were spared danger this time because you do have some strength. However, I must apologize to you for this. I didn't know you were here at this time, and there are many things I want to clarify with you. He glanced at Wang Zai and Lu Shi as he spoke. He had been fully aware of the dangers they would encounter when he brought them here. Of course, he intended to handle those situations himself, not have them take any risks. However, he didn't realize at that moment that some things couldn't be resolved simply by thinking about them. It was because he had gone to investigate those matters that they were captured again. At this moment, Wang Zai simply smiled at Chen Feng. She understood Yi Shen's current thoughts. You don't need to feel embarrassed about this. We came here willingly, and even if there are dangers, we understand that it has nothing to do with you. So you don't need to rush. You should think about how to deal with that person first. He glanced at Chen Feng as he said this. Chen Feng knew perfectly well who he was referring to, that person. Since he was here, he must have something to clarify, but he didn't know what it was. Moreover, that person seemed unaware of his system, or perhaps some system owners weren't aware of other system owners in this place. Chen Feng felt he should clarify this with his own system at this time. However, Wang Zai and Lu Shi hadn't rested yet, so he couldn't reveal this matter at this moment. He glanced at them again, noticing they might be injured, but because of his superior strength, they hadn't encountered any further danger. It seemed the ordinary people brought to this place were the most vulnerable, like Lu Shi. Wang Zai, on the other hand, was already very strong. He was a powerful ninja, something Chen Feng had already noticed. He was puzzled because the person he fought back then, the ugly one in Lu Shi's village, wasn't as strong as Wang Zai. But when they fought Wang Zai, it seemed Wang Zai hadn't used his full strength. Chen Feng didn't know why, but if Wang Zai didn't want to talk about it, he wouldn't force him. Besides, Chen Feng himself had things he hadn't told them yet. So he simply looked at Wang Zai again, smiled at him, and Wang Zai also found it strange. What did Chen Feng want to say? He looked away, then returned to them and spoke. You've been injured coming here, so rest for a bit. If we need to fight later, I might need your help. Rest now. I'm keeping an eye on things over there. You all know how dangerous this situation is, and I told you to come over here. He glanced at them as he spoke, clearly wanting to understand what was going on. Wang Zai, however, understood from Yi Shen's words that Chen Feng had something he didn't want them to know at this moment. Since Chen Feng had said so, he was indeed tired. As for Chen Feng's affairs, he didn't necessarily need to know them now. People like Chen Feng always have things they don't want others to know. He simply looked at Chen Feng again and smiled. He was going to rest for a while. Lu Shi, seeing this, didn't realize Chen Feng had anything he didn't want to tell him. He just saw that Chen Feng must have some things to resolve at this time, so he looked at him, thinking that there was nothing more to say now. Anyway, these matters are now resolved. They can think of a way to fight alongside Chen Feng when his strength has increased. He glanced at Chen Feng, smiled at them, and then said, "Rest now. We don't know when that person will return with his men. If we have to fight, you can't fight them now, or I might encounter some danger. So, everyone should rest for now." He looked at them as he said this, and Lu Tai agreed. He just looked at Chen Feng again and didn't say anything more. However, Chen Feng was also thinking about something, but not about this matter. After they had all rested, he spoke to the system. "System, I need to understand some things with you. Why did that person, the system owner, seem unaware that there are other system owners here? I didn't let him detect the application of the system. Please explain this to me clearly." Chen Feng sent this message to the system at this moment because he wanted to clarify the matter. The system seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if there were some things it couldn't tell Chen Feng at this time. However, Chen Feng didn't say anything else, he just waited for the system to tell him. Seeing the system's continued hesitation, Chen Feng knew that the system must have been telling him that there were other system users present, and there were other things it hadn't explained to him at that time. So, after thinking for a while, he also hesitated for a moment before directly speaking to the system again. "What's going on? You have to tell me now, don't you? This matter is already very dangerous. If something else happens at this time, I won't be able to complete this mission. You have to let me find out whether those people know that I have a system." Chapter 374 Helplessness. In fact, the system was also dealing with some issues at this time. It needed to consider whether Chen Feng could benefit from defeating the other system owners, or if he were defeated, he would become the beneficiary of those systems. Therefore, it was more likely that Chen Feng would be pleased if he resolved the situation with those systems. This was precisely why the system had informed Chen Feng of this, as only it could tell him about the existence of other system owners. The other system owners needed to figure out for themselves that others possessed systems, and the cultivator in this location was unaware of this. Therefore, the system decided to inform Chen Feng without hesitation and spoke to him at this moment. "Actually, only you noticed at this moment that another system is monitoring this matter. Because you resolved some other issues in the previous mission, you can tell me this now. Currently, no other system owner should be able to figure this out." Chen Feng was stunned upon hearing this. This was even more gratifying than he had expected. If no one else here had figured it out, and there were other system owners, it meant that Chen Feng wasn't in as much danger as he thought, and there were other things he could address at this time. According to the system, no one else had noticed yet, but even so, Chen Feng needed to be vigilant. What if someone found out? Therefore, he had to be cautious. As for other matters, he needed to find out more about them. However, he needed to think about this further and how to proceed. He felt somewhat helpless, but there were still many things he needed to resolve, especially what these people were thinking. Since that person didn't know Chen Feng possessed a system, Yishen only needed to think about other things to resolve the situation at this moment. There was no need to rush. He had learned about the system's existence, and as long as he prevented the person from discovering it, he could resolve these matters. Chen Feng also looked at Wang Zai and Lu Tai. He hadn't expected to learn about this from the system. It turned out that only he knew there were other system owners among them. If that was the case, why had he been so anxious and vigilant back then? Of course, he was only thinking this now, he didn't actually want to tell anyone. He looked around, unsure when that person would arrive, so he needed to explain things to them. He then looked at Lu Tai and Wang Zai again. When that person comes back, we'll definitely have a battle with them. We can't really do what they say. There are so many people here, and they might all be in danger. So we need to think of other solutions. As he spoke, he glanced at them. He himself felt helpless about the situation, but he needed to find a solution. He looked at them, smiled, and knew they were also anxious. He then thought for a moment. He wasn't sure what those people's purpose was, at least not at this point, so he needed to discuss it further. Seeing their genuine anxiety, he said to Lu Tai and Wang Zai, "I'm not afraid to fight them right now, but there's something we really need to think about. I don't know where your friends and those people they brought here are being held. If we can find them, we won't be afraid to fight them now." Chen Feng looked at them again as he spoke. This was what was truly worrying him. They still hadn't found where those people had been taken. If they could find them, the matter could be resolved now. The problem was, they hadn't found them yet. "We're not entirely sure what they did when we brought this here. We were unconscious at the time, so we don't know where the others were being held. Did Wang Zai know anything about this when he was taken away? Because Wang Zai was injured when he was taken there, it's very likely that he knew something. Wang Zai thought about what they were saying, and he really wanted to find out what happened and where those people were taken. He should know. He was introduced to them at the time, but Chen Feng felt that Wang Zai should know these things. It was just a matter of whether he was willing to tell them now. So he looked at Wang Zai, thinking that he would definitely be willing to talk about these things. Sure enough, Wang Zai just smiled at them. I am indeed aware of this matter, but how do we bring those people here? What if they realize it later? Our goal is to prevent ordinary people from being harmed, so what if they use them to threaten us at this time? How do we resolve this? He looked at Chen Feng as he said this. He genuinely felt helpless about this situation. He wanted to help them, but there were some things he had to clarify with them at this moment. Chen Feng and the others thought about it and realized that such a possibility existed. Those people were capable of anything. So he looked at them at this moment. He hesitated for a moment because of this matter, then suddenly smiled at them. Wang Zai, on the other hand, found Chen Feng's smile a bit strange, but then realized that he must have thought of a solution. Sure enough, the host then spoke to them. Chapter 375 Beyond the Realm. They can't possibly come here now anyway. Although there are people watching us, we can still find a way to get closer. We can resolve this by getting rid of the other people they've taken there. So we need to find a way to get those 500 people to come to us. Wang Zai and Lu Shi were puzzled by this. Looking at Chen Feng, they realized Yi Shen wasn't trying to say anything else. He wasn't trying to find the people who had been brought here himself. Instead, he wanted the guards to bring the people to him. But how could that be possible? The guards were working for that person. How could they bring the people to them now? They looked at Chen Feng, genuinely puzzled by this. However, Chen Feng suddenly smiled and then, "You've probably been there for a while now. Since you're already here, why don't you come out now? I have some things I need to discuss with you. Of course, if you don't mind, please come out now. I have some things to clarify with you." Hearing Chen Feng's words, Lu Shi and Wang Zai were both a little confused. They were wondering what was going on when someone suddenly appeared in front of them. They looked in surprise and saw it was the guard who had brought Wang Zai here. She had even left Wang Zai some healing items, so his sudden appearance was quite surprising. However, judging from Chen Feng's expression, he must have sensed the guard's presence when he appeared, which was why he spoke up. Chen Feng smiled at the guard. He had indeed sensed the guard's presence earlier, and from the moment he brought Wang Zai here, he knew very well that the guard was also reluctant to do these things with him. Seeing those people injured, the guard was probably also unhappy. However, he wasn't quite sure why the man had come here. Chen Feng wanted to find out, so he glanced at the man but didn't say much else, simply asking him to come over at this time. The man, however, didn't seem to care, thinking that Chen Feng could detect his location so easily and still ask him to come over now. But since Chen Feng had already detected him, there was no point in hiding anymore. So he approached Yi Shen, feeling a bit strange about how Yi Shen had found him. He looked at Yi Shen, genuinely wanting to understand the situation. Chen Feng understood what he was thinking. He smiled at the guard and then looked at Wang Zai and Lu Shi. He could tell they were both puzzled, so he kept an eye on the guard. He couldn't let Wang Zai and Lu Shi dislike him. "Because I noticed you seemed unwilling to let them do those things. When you brought Wang Zai here, you left her some healing items, and when you said you were going to go with them to bring people, you didn't seem too happy. What happened? Could you please tell us?" As Chen Feng spoke, he looked at the man, genuinely wanting to understand the situation. The man was surprised. He hadn't expected that Du Chun could discern from the fact that he left Wang Zai with healing items that Du Chun was unwilling to do anything for them at this time. But even so, what could they do now? They could only look at the people around them, considering their current predicament, and decide to resolve things as soon as possible. Looking at them and pondering their situation, he suddenly smiled at Chen Feng. Indeed, this man was formidable. He had found it strange that the people here weren't afraid for anything else, yet Chen Feng instilled fear in them. He felt it wasn't just due to strength. There must be other reasons. Now he understood some of it. So he smiled at Chen Feng, hoping Chen Feng could resolve the matter. He had been wanting to find someone to settle the remaining issues, at least to prevent them from hurting others again. So, looking at Chen Feng, he continued speaking. He was indeed reluctant to do these things for them at this time, but since he was already here, he had no choice but to stay. Otherwise, they would lock him up somewhere else and use him as a tool for cultivation. And those people were certainly capable of doing such things. As he said this, he looked at Chen Feng and smiled at him, seemingly embarrassed by what he had done. He genuinely felt that way. He wasn't as powerful as Chen Feng or them. When threatened by those people, he still listened to them and stayed here. He wasn't as capable as Chen Feng, who could directly refuse to help them. Looking at Chen Feng at this moment, he was quite surprised. However, Chen Feng understood what he was thinking and smiled at him. He could even sense that what he was doing shouldn't have been done at this time. Chen Feng thought this person was already quite capable, which was why he looked at him at this moment. Moreover, he was definitely somewhat helpless at this moment because of some things, especially those who used ordinary people for cultivation. Chen Feng wasn't entirely sure why they were doing this at this time. Even if they could become stronger now, they still had many other things to resolve. He looked at them, pondered for a moment, and then slowly said to the guard, "Don't be upset about this. It wasn't all you're doing at this time. You didn't use those people for cultivation, so why are you helping us now? Aren't you afraid they'll just eliminate you here?" End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.